Good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Time for the drive. We got 4 hours of stuff to bring you that'll give you news and information you can use. And some of this is going to really, today I've got stuff that I guarantee you is just going to make you mad. It's not my job every day to come in here and say, well, let's see what we can do to hack off the audience. But I mean, some of this stuff is really going to make you mad. And this one, just stands on my last nerve. The southern border. Now, you've heard me talk about the southern border. It's of great interest to me because, to me, I think it's a real problem. We've got millions of people coming across the border. We don't know some of these people. We don't know who they are, and you would think that by now it would have played out. Everybody who wanted to come had come, but you know what? I think a lot of people are looking at the coming election and understanding that if there is a change in presidents, and God, we hope there is, that the border will tighten up again. And so I think that there's a renewed interest. Well, let's get across the border before the election, right? Take advantage of these Biden people who've got the border wide open, and we'll just take advantage of it. There is one guy who I deeply admire as a reporter over at Fox News. And he took a break from covering the border, but he's back down there now. And, this is a guy who's been covering it ever since it started to happen. 2.5 years he's been going down to the border. He's got his sources dialed in, and he knows exactly what's going on there. And if you think you've seen the worst of the border, get ready. Listen to Bill Melugin from Fox News as he describes what happened in the last 24 to 36 hours.
We witnessed one of the largest mass illegal crossings we have ever seen in the last 2.5 years of covering our southern border. Border Patrol sources telling us just after midnight, about 2,500 migrants crossed illegally into Eagle Pass. You can see this lengthy line of them stretching from shore to shore in the river. This video perspective coming from the Mexican side of the river in Piedras Negras. They essentially bum rushed Eagle Pass last night, and this happened right next to the port of entry where the Biden administration is telling people to cross legally. They don't care. They're crossing illegally because there are little to no fear of consequences. Almost essentially a stampede of people rushing down to the edge of the river just after midnight. You can see some Mexican National Guard soldiers kind of standing around aimlessly, not sure of how to try to stop so many people, but they went rushing into the water and crossed illegally right into Eagle Pass. These migrants continue to have no fear of consequences for crossing the U.S. border illegally. They believe if they step foot on U.S. soil, they will be released into the United States, and they are not listening to Biden administration messaging that the border is closed and that they should not come to the United States. Take a look at this video out of Mexico showing a train full of migrants hooting, hollering, cheering, and waving to the cameras. This is in Zacatecas, Mexico, and that train is heading straight for the U.S.-Mexico border. Patrol sources are telling us more of these trains are heading north as I speak to you right now, and these numbers are expected to get worse. CBP sources telling Fox News that as of this morning, they had over 20,000 migrants in federal custody, and that's even with all these mass street releases they've been doing to try to decompress. We are told they're getting close to a breaking point and that they feel the border has never been worse.
Wow. Our thanks to Fox News for the use of that report. Bill Melugin doing a great job there. But, I mean, they're literally coming by the trainload. And they're swamping the Border Patrol at midnight with 2,500. You should see the pictures that go with this. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's the worst it's ever been. It's not getting better, and it's not going to get any better as long as this administration is in charge of what's happening at the border. They love this. They love this. And you know what? They're doing it for crass political reasons. Honestly, they want as many people to come because they want to change the demographics of America. And I think they're having some success, actually. They don't care that the city of New York is suffering. They don't care that the city of Chicago, L.A., San Francisco, and the border towns, they don't care that they're suffering and being overrun. They're doing this for political reasons. They don't care It's obvious they don't care about the drugs that are coming off in the midst of the chaos. They don't care about the 1.7 million. I'm going to say that number again. 1.7 million people who are crossing the border illegally that we don't know anything about. The so-called gotaways. They're the ones who don't go to the Border Patrol and ask for a nice piece of paper. They are running from the Border Patrol, and one wonders why. I'll tell you why. They're not very nice people. And a lot of them do not have the interest of the United States in their best interest at heart. It's ugly. It's about as ugly as it's ever been. It's getting worse. And you know what? There's such a fatigue in talking about it that people just roll their eyes when you say border crisis, border crisis. This is fundamentally changing and making America less safe. You know, we talked, and you think it doesn't matter. Just remember the story I told you last week about how Nashville, Tennessee, has the second highest number of drug overdoses in the nation per capita, right behind Baltimore, Maryland. And why? Well, the drugs that are coming across the border are making their way into Middle Tennessee, into your own backyard. You are losing people that you know and love because the Biden administration is allowing so many of these drugs to come into our country. They're completely overwhelmed, completely overrun. And we're doing nothing. Nothing. At one point he said, I thought the report was pretty interesting. He said, there is no consequence. Yes, there's no consequence to breaking the law. And they say, well, they're not paying attention to the Biden administration when they say the border is closed. Well, you know what? You can say that all you want to, but, they have seen the pictures of people who cross the border and are given a slip of paper and sent on their way. They know that it's not going to be enforced no matter what they say. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a disaster of huge magnitude. It really is. Criminal elements coming into this country, drugs coming into this country, human trafficking. It's just horrible. Every time somebody comes across the border, you know who is enriched? The cartels, the coyotes who work for the cartels. They get paid. So every time somebody comes across the border, you are making the cartels stronger. You're enriching the cartels. Why is nobody raising unmitigated hell about this? I'm telling you, it is the worst thing I've ever seen, and the worst managed situation ever. And we're going to regret the day. I pray that we don't have another attack against the homeland. But many of these people who are coming across are Russian. They're Chinese. They come from terrorist states, and they're making their way into this country. I heard a story the other day that even right here in Lebanon, they had a court hearing for somebody who was on the terrorist watch list. Right here in our backyard. What are they doing? Why are they coming? States who do not have our national interest at heart are, I think, sending sleeper cells in. I mean, I think that's entirely possible. We don't know because we don't know who these 1.7 million gotaways are. 1.7 million. It's so infuriating. Here's more on that train. Yes, and by the way, the trains are coming, and these trains are packed. It looks like these are trains that are carrying coal. And I don't know, but they're headed north, and they are just packed with people who have jumped up into these trains and are making their way toward the southern border. They're going north toward the southern border. A Ferromex train filled with migrants out of Zacatecas heads toward the southern border while the passengers cheered and hung from the sides. The train was captured on video Sunday, despite the United States sending a stern message to migrants, do not come. Well, why would you pay attention to that after you've seen what's happening? For instance, they've been overwhelmed. For instance, Ajo, Arizona saw 2,000 illegal crossings a day for several straight days last week. forcing agents to resort to street releases because shelters are packed. In other words, they're just packing people up in buses and saying, well, you're released, go. We don't have the ability to hold as many people are coming across. I mean, completely overwhelmed. The migrants include people from Africa. Last month, there were over 2,000 migrants in Border Control custody. Caravans heading toward the southern border. It included families and infants and children, unaccompanied minors. Of the families that were stopped along the Rio Grande Valley, many were released with future court dates, which they will not attend. That's not in the story. I'm just adding that. The Biden administration is considering forcing the migrants who cross the U.S. to illegally remain in Texas. Yeah, like try to make that work while they wait out their asylum screenings. That's the Biden administration trying to get back. You know what? There are 110,000 migrants in New York City, and they're pointing their finger at the governor of Texas. The governor of Texas did this. No, the governor of Texas sent 12% of those 110,000 migrants. The rest were sent by the Biden administration. Thank you very much. Here's an example of what's going on. Illegal alien charged with murder after being released by New York police due to a paperwork error. Stands accused of killing a man after being let out of jail due to a paperwork error for previously stabbing someone on a separate occasion. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Look, I know that I talk about this a great deal. But it is perhaps one of the most egregious things that I've ever witnessed in all the years as a reporter, that we do not have control of our southern border. By the way, we don't have control of our northern border either. A lot of people coming in from the northern border, and that's becoming a problem as well. Not to the degree we see in the southern border. You mark my word, as we get closer and closer and closer to Election Day in 2024, this problem is going to ramp up far beyond what it is now. And right now, it's uncontrollable. We need to do something about this. And the Biden administration seems blissfully fine with just looking the other way. We need the military down there in a big way. We need to lock up the border. I mean, God bless Governor Greg Abbott and everything he's trying to do to keep the immigrants from coming to this country illegally. And, you know, talk about another thing we don't talk about at all, how unfair it is to the people who actually come to this country and follow the rules. They came to this country and they did it the way you're supposed to. They applied for citizenship. They're working through the process. Maybe they got a work visa, whatever it is, but they are working their way through an elaborate process, and they're doing it correctly under the law. Well, why do that? Why go through all that trouble when all you got to do is make your way to Eagle Pass and cross over there, Piedras Negras, and just right across the river, and the next thing you know, you've got a piece of paper, and you can just vanish into the fabric of America. This is about as ugly a thing as I've seen. And get ready, because in the next few days, as the trainfuls, big, long, coal trains full of people, are making their way north. You think the Mexican government could do something about that to help us out? Get the people off the coal trains. They're not supposed to be riding the coal trains, but they are. And they're coming our way, and the border, which is already at the breaking point, is going to be completely overwhelmed. Mark my word, the worst days are still to come. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Something awesome happening at Genesis Diamonds this Friday through Sunday. You've been hearing about this. It's really big. It's a 3-day designer engagement ring event showcasing the world's 2 top brands in bridal jewelry, Tacori and Verragio. Tacori from California, Viraggio from New York, both with their entire lines, including all new rings for this special event. You can explore hundreds of exquisite American-made designer rings. Plus, Genesis will have specialized incentives, zero interest financing, and up to $5,000 in instant saving. In addition, Genesis has an expanded selection of GIA certified diamonds for this 3-day event. All shapes, all sizes, rock bottom prices on the rock you want. This is the best of the best. Every Tacori ring is handcrafted by master artisans with exceptional quality. Every Viraggio ring made by hand with unmatched attention to detail. These are brands other jewelers only wish they could offer, but at Genesis, they have the entire Tacori and Viraggio collection, and they will all be on display this weekend. Do not miss the bridal jewelry event of the year, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
An update on the United Auto Workers strike, a deadly drive-by shooting in Middle Tennessee, and a popular comedian and movie star now in trouble with the law. We'll fill you in at 3:30. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
24 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Mac Morey's in the newsroom doing the newsroom thing. And by the way, he'll join us for the most exciting segment that people are just talking about it. It's a big fan favorite and a favorite of mine. Every day at 5:25, Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports.
Woo!
And we're going to be doing a post-game analysis of the Titans game where we won. Yay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
So anyway-
no analysis of the Vols game though.
No,
we
we'll
will
stay
not-
away
we-
from that.
We don't
would
ever
not
want
be
to speak
doing
of
it.
that, right?
Yeah, you know what? By the way, I went to Congressman John Rose's fish fry up in Carthage, and boy, just quite an event. By the way, Congressman Mark Green was there. Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House, was there. A great number of members of the House and a lot of elected officials. And I had asked you guys, what do you wear to a fish fry?
Yeah.
And so I ended up going with, I thought my fish shirt was a little too casual. So I just put on a nice shirt and a pair of jeans and a pair of kicks.
Wait a minute. Too casual for a fish fry?
Well, no, I mean,
Didn't get any more casual, right?
It's sort of a ratty T-shirt, and I didn't want to wear it. So I put on a nice shirt and a pair of jeans and my kicks, and I went to the game, but I got it wrong. Clearly, looking around. By the way, they called me up at the end of the thing to say a few words, and I'm looking across the whole crowd there, and I said, I clearly got it wrong, because the answer is to what do you wear to the fish fry in Tennessee on a Saturday is something orange.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because everybody was in orange. That's right.
I love it.
Yeah. But anyway, a great event, and I loved catching up with folks. So many people came up and said warm things about what we do here afternoon. And boy, does that mean a lot to me. You don't know. Quite frankly, how much it means to us when we hear from people, listen to you every day, love what you do, and we have such a loyal audience, and we want you to know that we never take that for granted. We really don't. While I got you guys here.
Wait a minute now. Most importantly, you didn't say, how was the fish?
Oh, the fish was
Yes.
awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
And they had an ice cream. You had me at fish, and then the bonus was there was an ice cream truck there. So I mean, how in the world can you go wrong? That's right.
Nice.
The mystery of the day, where is our F-35? Have you seen our F-35? Hey, did anybody see an F-35?
Check the
We're missing an $80 million aircraft. We have no idea where it is.
I don't see it out back.
No, it's unbelievable. I mean, this happened out of Joint Base Charleston. This is a Marine F-35. And these, by the way, are the jets that can, I believe, take off vertically. And the Marines fly the ones that can take off vertically and then go into stealth mode. So the pilot apparently had, and we put this in quotes, a mishap. We don't know what. Now, he was in autopilot mode, and for some reason, he ejected from the aircraft. And they will only describe it as a mishap. How did that happen? And I'm being told, I was listening earlier, somebody called in and said, it's not easy to do that. You have to reach down underneath your seat and pull a wire to eject. I flew in an F-16 one time with the Thunderbirds, and the guy told me, he said, "See that red button over there?" I said, "Yeah. Whatever you do, don't touch that red button." I said, "Okay, I won't touch that red button." So that's the eject button. So it's on some aircraft it's a button, but apparently you have to physically reach down and pull it like a T-handle with a wire on it, and then you eject. And the cannon blows, and then you eject. But it was on autopilot.
I've got a theory. I just thought of this. He dropped his phone.
Somebody suggested that, and you know what?
Wow.
It might be that, something like that.
Reaching
I
up
don't know.
under the seat.
no.
Is this my phone?
Because they are absolutely not giving any details about how he ejected or why he ejected. It's very hush hush. But here we have one of our top stealth aircraft flying on autopilot without a pilot. It would go as far as the gas would take it, as much gas as you had the tank. But then you have a situation where you can't track it. Because he wasn't, and if you know anything about being a pilot, and I'm not a pilot, but I've been in a lot of small planes and a lot of aircraft and helicopters over the years, you squawk a certain frequency, and the air traffic controllers can follow you. But if you turn off the squawker on an F-35, they can't see you at all. It's a stealth aircraft. So they have no idea where it went down. So they're saying...
Have they even said, what direction it was going?
They're saying it was north of Joint Base Charleston at Lake Moultrie or Lake Marion. Maybe it went in the lake. I don't know. But they're just saying they're looking in that area, because I guess what they did was they don't probably know exactly how much fuel was in the aircraft at the time that he ejected. But one way or the other, they're looking for it now. And honestly, they don't have a clue where this $80 million stealth aircraft, which has, by the way, a lot of really, really, really high top secret equipment and stuff in it. If somebody were to get a hold of it, our enemies would be able to reverse engineer one of our most advanced aircraft. So we really need to find it, and nobody quite knows. If you see something that looks like an F-35, they actually have a number to call, 843-963-3600. It's the missing F-35 hotline. Anyway, on that note, it's 3:30 on Super Talk.
Minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 78 degrees right now in Nashville. Got a traffic report plus a weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. On the fourth day of the United Auto Workers strike, days without pay will soon start making a dent in the personal finances of picketers. But auto workers on strike are doing what they can to support one another. Dave Packer.
Union organizer Lauren McCollum works at the manufacturing plant operated by Chrysler parent company Stellantis in Toledo. She says everything from child care to transportation is available for UAW workers like her on strike.
We have union members that are good at painting, child care, fixing homes. If someone needs a ride somewhere, these members are willing to trade their skill with one another.
Helping each other as they stand together.
Holding each other's hands and having each other's backs.
Crime in Tennessee. A 22-year-old was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting. It happened last Friday. Footage shows a four-door silver Infiniti sedan that had damage on the driver's side leaving the premises. Officials are looking for that vehicle. They believe there could be a drug motive in this shooting. A $5,000 reward is being offered for any information that can lead to an arrest. And many are cutting ties with Russell Brand after allegations of sexual assault came out over the weekend. Jason Nathanson.
Russell Brand's current tour has been postponed following accusations made in the UK media over the weekend that he raped one woman and sexually assaulted others. And police in London say they've received a report of a sexual assault dating back to 2003. Brand's book deal with UK publisher Pan Macmillan has been paused, and his talent agency has dropped him, saying that Brand vehemently denied an allegation made in 2020, but now they feel they were horribly misled by him. Ahead of the allegations coming out, Brand on Friday posted a video saying all of his relationships are consensual, and he thinks he's being targeted by those who want to silence him.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
If you have a desire to add gold or silver to your portfolio, listen up. I want to tell you about Nashville Gold and Coin. If you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I recommend. It's the place I do business. You'll get an honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. I learned so much. They also specialize in the buying, selling, and appraising of coins. Do you have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around might be worth? I brought in a few silver coins I had in the shoebox, buried in my sock drawer, and it turned out to be worth around $1,650. Now, whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. That's right. They'll come in, they'll sit down with you, they'll show you exactly what you got, they'll tell you what it's worth. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. It's 38 minutes past the hour. You're listening to The Drive. I'm Brian Wilson on this Monday, the 18th day of September. Man, I'm telling you, I think we are into some beautiful, maybe pre-fall. I mean, it feels like fall, doesn't it? Starting to feel like it a little bit.
It really does, yeah.
Yeah. It's not, of course, officially fall, but, when it gets cool at night, to me, that's and the leaves start to turn. There you go. You got problem. I know that all I have on my property right now is trees that are losing their leaves. That's a huge challenge.
Yeah, you got to take care of those.
Especially, I have a zero turn mower, and I like to just go over them and just kind of mulch them up and send them out there. It's, that's a good way to do it. Except I hit a stump.
Uh-oh.
I completely boogered my zero turn mower. Yeah, it's got to go to the shop, and you should see my lawn. It's like all the blade. I had to finish up what I was doing. I couldn't stop in the middle of it, and so there's big gashes in my lawn where apparently the blade is bent. It's ugly. I got the ugliest yard in all of Watertown right now. Let's see. Let's go into this. Let's talk about Hunter Biden and the investigation into Biden Inc. I want to play this piece of sound for you. Nancy Mace, who serves on the House Oversight Committee and is aware of some of the evidence that has been gathered thus far by the House Oversight Committee about Hunter Biden and whether or not there were links to President Biden. Did he take bribes? Did he take official actions when people in, like, for example, Ukraine were paying his son a lot of money? It was this for that. And she's on MSNBC the MSNBC talent, whoever it is, I don't know, some nobody, says, you know what? There's no evidence of wrongdoing. And she took umbrage with that.
Let me also ask you, before you go, the impeachment inquiry that McCarthy announced, even though he had said he wouldn't do it without a vote, and then a few days later he does it without a vote. I want to read you something that Ken Buck, one of your Republican colleagues, had to say in a Washington Post op-ed of the impeachment inquiry. He said, impeachment is a serious matter and should have a foundation of rock-solid facts. Trump's impeachment in 2019 was a disgrace to the Constitution and is a disservice to Americans. The GOP's reprise in 2023 is no better. He says these allegations against the Biden family are part of an imagined history and a fictitious version of events. Was this premature, going all the way with an impeachment inquiry?
I don't believe so. The facts are everywhere. There are text messages, there are emails, there are witnesses, there are whistleblowers, there are meetings, there are phone calls, there are dinners. And you can't say, hey, there's a little bit of smoke, we're not going to follow the fire. And the inquiry, my understanding is, as you said earlier, gives us expanded subpoena powers. I want the bank records of Joe Biden. All of that should be on the table to prove out the allegations in the SARS reports. We're talking about a significant sum of money. We are talking about bribery. And in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 4, that is the basis for impeachment.
There's no evidence of bribery.
There are witnesses. The 1023 form, there are,
and you've been investigating. You're on the oversight.
There is evidence. You can't say that there's no evidence when there is evidence. And quite frankly,
there's no evidence.
It was the fourth estate. It was the media and journalists when Nixon was going down that helped do that investigation, helped bring down the president when he broke the law. And you guys want to deny that there's evidence? It's everywhere, and the bank records will prove it out.
Well, there you go. That's Nancy Mace talking about what the evidence will show. But I mean, boy, wasn't getting any kind of open conversation with the talent there. The talent trying to make the case that, you don't have anything. You don't have any. Well, I mean, have you looked at the evidence? I mean, come on, man. Take a look at some of the stuff that's out there. Other stories that have to do with this particular topic from justthenews.com. A retired FBI supervisor has revealed to Congress that the Bureau's Washington field office had a second politically connected informant providing information relevant to the Biden family investigation, but was asked to shut down the source in the fall of 2020, shortly before Joe Biden was elected president. You had somebody out there who had evidence. They just didn't want to hear it. They don't, you've got evidence, blah, 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 sticking their fingers in their ear, not wanting to know what it was. Let's just shut that down. I don't think there's any there. They didn't want to look. Retired Special Agent Timothy Thibault, the former number 2 supervisor in the Washington field office of the FBI, told the House Judiciary Committee last week in a transcribed interview he was somewhat taken aback when he received the request from the lead agent in the Hunter Biden tax case in October to shut down the confidential human source. It shocked me a bit because I'm like, well, the purpose of a confidential informant is to support a case. Thibault told investigators in portions of a transcript reviewed by Just the News. Thibault did not further identify the source in his testimony, but best-selling author Peter Schweizer told Just the News Sunday he believes he is the person described in the transcript based on past comments from Thibault, and after the New York Times recently suggested the FBI had received information in the Hunter Biden case from a right-wing author. Schweizer said the FBI approached him, and he provided to agents evidence about possible criminality in the fall of 2020. He said there was no politics involved, just facts, and he pushed back on the narrative of the Times, noting its journalists reported on the Hillary Clinton-funded Steele dossier submitted to the FBI in 2016, which turned out to be a complete fabrication. Speaker McCarthy says that the White House is already engaging in impeachment inquiry obstruction with fake evidence and disinformation talking points. And there you go. McCarthy, who appeared on Breitbart News Sunday on Sirius XM, said the document drafted by the White House counsel's office and sent from formal White House staff to media outlets at the outset of the impeachment inquiry which led to the false reports and the use of the disinformation talking points by many media outlets and Democrats allied with the White House, could amount to obstruction of an investigation. There you go. Hunter Biden's text and emails contradicts his lawyer's claim that he did not share money from businesses with Dad from Fox News. Former Hunter Biden's attorneys recently claimed his client did not share money from his business dealings with his dad, but a 2019 text message and multiple emails appeared to contradict this claim. Abby Lowell, who has been aggressively defending Hunter, said in a recent interview he can categorically declare that President Biden was not involved in Hunter's previous business dealings. Well, of course he's going to say that. These claims, however, did not appear to hold up when looking at Hunter's text message and emails from his abandoned laptop. In January of 2019, text message, Hunter expressed frustration with his daughter Naomi and revealed that his dad forced him to fork over half of his salary. Remember that? In a 2018 WhatsApp message from his uncle, Hunter fumed about how now First Lady Jill Biden called her a moron. I'll have to clean that up a little bit. After she shot down a proposal about him teaching and said he needed to get sober first or he would not be able to support his family. I supported my family during some of the costs, including some of the costs you should have used your salary to pay for over the last 24 years. Yeah, so I don't, listen, the emails are there. By the way, there's another email out there. This is pretty interesting. This is from, again, justthefactsdaily.com. Authenticated documents from Hunter Biden's laptop reveal that Joe Biden had many email aliases. Here's a new one I haven't heard before. Peter Henderson at 67 Stingray at gmx.com. Robin Ware, 456, and Robert L. Peters. We've heard those before. On June 7th, Kathy Chung, a government-paid assistant to then Vice President Biden, sent a mail to his government alias and to Hunter with the subject line, "See below, these are cell numbers." You're not going to believe who they had. And by the way, they're out there. They've been blacked out in this document. But he provided cell phone numbers to President Clinton, Secretary Clinton, Senator Dodd. Remember, this is back when Hillary Clinton was involved in the running of the State Department. Senator McConnell, Senator McDonough, and a bunch of senators. The list is as long as my arm, and I have pretty long arms. Given that Chung was a federal employee who worked directly for FBI Biden, there can be little Vice President Biden. There can be little doubt that Joe ordered her to give this information to Hunter. The fact that Chung sent this to Joe's government alias strongly suggests that she wanted him to know she did what he asked, and without leaving an obvious record of it in government accounts. This gold mine, I'm telling you, there's not a reporter around or a human being around who understands politics who wouldn't have loved to have the cell phone numbers of this list of people. Was given to Hunter while he was being paid at least $1 million per year by Burisma. So he could reach out and contact any of these people on their personal cell phones. So this thing is just continuing to percolate. Now, I just want to say one thing about all this, and that is, we talk about how this story is incremental. And there's a drip, and a drip. Every day a different drip, and a little piece is added to the story. And so, it's very frustrating for a lot of people to say, well, I keep hearing this. Where are they? Well, I think that the House Oversight Committee is on the right track. They're following the money, and they have now enhanced subpoena powers since they've started the impeachment inquiry, and it gives them the ability to start following this money even more aggressively. You always follow the money. Nobody bothered to look until the Republicans took over the House. And now they're out there actively investigating, and they're finding a little bit every day. And so when I come to you with some, additional little drip to the story, I think what you have to understand is the drips are adding up to gallons and gallons and gallons. And it's the way you build a case effectively. To anybody who says, I'm talking to anybody in the Republican House of Representatives, Matt Gaetz, who says, the thing we need to do is get Hunter Biden in and have him testify. No, that is not the way you conduct an investigation. You get all the facts first, and then if you call in Hunter Biden, all he's going to do is plead the fifth anyway. He's not going to provide anything. He's not going to give you any information. But what you need to do is build an unassailable case. And we are getting closer and closer and closer each day. The drip is turning into a flood. And the floodwaters are coming. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. All right, it's time of year where you might need your air conditioner, you might need your heater if it gets a little cool at night. Whatever you need, if it starts to go on the fritz, you need to pick up the phone and call this number, 615-775-7833. That's the number to Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing. They will come out and fix whatever is bothering you, whatever's not working. If you have reached the point where your system has just gone too far, and they'll give you all the options, but if you need to replace it, as I had to do last year, well, you're not going to find a better deal on HVAC and plumbing replacement systems. You want to become a member of the Beehive Club for as little as $99. You'll get 3 thorough maintenance services on your system, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
More aid from the United States going out to Libya, a missing pregnant woman in Tennessee, a possible government shutdown, and a bear on the loose at Disney World. Those stories and more at 4. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at some economic data. Oil is up. Brent crude, $94 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate, $92 a barrel. And the markets closed today with little change. Dow Jones Industrial up about 6. The S&P up 3, and the NASDAQ up about 2. Giving us a look at what we're going to be looking at and what the concerns are right now is John Maxon from Beacon Capital Management. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, a flat day in the market, and I'll tell you, this is really about the Fed and their meeting this week. Focus on interest rate, and really, it's widely expected that the Fed is going to pause interest rate hikes, but the market's really going to be listening to the tone of what the Fed says, whether they project that they're done or that they're going to raise interest rates further as we get closer to the end of the year. And I'll tell you what's really complicating things for them is the price of energy, which is a huge part of inflation. Gas prices today hit a 2023 high, $3.88 a gallon across the country. And higher gas prices could have a huge negative effect potentially on inflation, but also the broader economy. So the Fed's tone is going to be something to really closely watch.
Okay, John, thank you. And by the way, I heard that in L.A., in some gas stations, $6 a gallon for gas. Wow. That's that's right. Brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. You can find out all the things they can do for you just by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 58 minutes now past the hour. Let's talk about D.T. McCall and Sons, a great company, been around in this area for more than 100 years. I mean, they have a great reputation because you don't make it more than a century without having a reputation for treating people right, and I think that you'll find that they do. A huge selection of appliances, furniture, mowers. I mean, I buy a lot of stuff from D.T. McCall's. You walk around my house and I can point to you a lot of stuff. So I've had a lot of experience with them. And you know what I find each and every time? Great service, a reasonable price, a very good price on the things that I want. And you know, they don't charge you for delivering. They don't charge you extra for setup. And they don't charge you extra to haul the old stuff away. All these things are great. One of the things I love about D.T. McCall's is that whenever possible, they try to sell products that are made and manufactured in Middle Tennessee. You talk about England furniture. Well, guess what? It's not made in England at all. It's made right here in Middle Tennessee. They got a whole host of things that are made in Tennessee. They're doing their best to keep the dollars local. You're going to love your next visit to D.T. McCall's. If you haven't been one, you need to go to one. Find out about their 5 convenient locations by going to dtmccalls.com.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 77 degrees right now in Music City. Complete weather and traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. More U.S. assistance for Libya after devastating flooding. Karen Travers with the latest.
President Biden announced Monday that the U.S. will donate $11 million more to help with the response to the flooding in Libya. This brings the total U.S. contribution to $12 million. The president said in a statement that the funding will go to local and international organizations responding to the catastrophe and the urgent humanitarian needs. According to the president, the State Department and the U.S. Agency for International Development will help coordinate the delivery of this aid, water, food, shelter, and medical help to those who need it most.
A missing pregnant woman in Tennessee. Channel 4 says that 22-year-old Alyssa Bowden of Madison, Tennessee, was last seen on August 14th at her boyfriend's mom's house in Goodlettsville. Bowden is 9 months pregnant, and her mother, Samantha Fenderson, claims that the last person to see her said that she was, quote, blue and bruised. Her boyfriend is also considered missing. Fenderson is offering a $2,000 reward for anyone who can help find Bowden, who also has a 5-year-old son. And with just 12 days to go until a potential government shutdown, House Republicans appear to remain divided today on how or even if a deal can be reached to keep the government's lights on past the September 30th deadline. Jay O'Brien is inside the Capitol with the latest.
Two factions in the House Republican Conference came to agreement on a temporary funding measure that has a lot of partisan Republican red meat in it as well. And even that is not likely to pass the Senate. But there's a question of if it would even pass the Republican-controlled House. There are 10 Republicans right now in the House who have said they're not going to vote for this CR, this continuing resolution, to keep the doors of the federal government open.
And parts of Walt Disney World, shut down for a time after the spotting of a black bear that wasn't supposed to be there. Dave Packer.
This black bear wasn't on the safari in Animal Kingdom or in the Bear Country Jamboree show. It was spotted in a tree at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. That from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, which was called in to help capture the animal. Parts of Frontierland, Liberty Square, and Adventureland were closed for a time while the bear was removed. Fish and Wildlife saying both Florida's bear and human population are growing, meaning more human bear encounters than in the past.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, everybody, it's 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock, hour number 2 of the drive on this 18th day of September. Beautiful fall-like weather, even though it's not officially fall yet. Yes, we know. Don't send us memos. We know. But it still feels like it in the evenings. Nice. Had to turn up the heater on the pool, man. I'm telling you.
I got a little chilly over the weekend.
Yeah, it did.
I like it.
It did. Yeah. This my favorite time of year. Honestly, I love the fall.
Me
I
too.
really do. I think I like the fact that you have nice days, and then these days in the 70s and maybe 80s, and then a little chill, a little nip in the air at night. It's good. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's really nice here in Middle Tennessee this time of year. We're going to move on to our 2024 update. Boy, we got a lot of stuff here. I got to tell you, as I look at the numbers, it's increasingly looking good for Donald Trump and not looking so good for Joe Biden. I can bring you a lot of evidence to that, but let me just tell you right now, if you look at the most recent polls of the Republican lineup, there's little doubt Donald Trump is going to be the nominee unless something happens that we can't foresee. I'm looking at the last 1, 2, 3, 4 polls, and he has between a 47 and a 50-point lead over DeSantis. So, I don't even know why we're doing this debate next week. It doesn't seem like it's gonna help anybody out. I mean, I can tell you in the world of politics, I've never seen someone overcome a 47, 48, or even 50-point lead. I mean, how do you do that? So, it seems increasingly like Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, and, he's got a lot of different court cases he has to face. Who knows how all that's going to play out? I don't think it's going to change anything. I think Republicans are ready for a Trump redo, and that's just the way it is. On the Biden side of the equation, let me just say, the difference here between Republicans and Democrats is Democrats are united, and they're excited. Okay, that's good. You want passion. You want people to be excited about the election and about their candidate. And the numbers tend to suggest that they are. On the other hand, the Democrats, they're very worried, and they're in a world of hurt right now because they got an old guy who stumbles and mumbles and bumbles his way through every event that you see him. He is cognitively in decline. He's not up to it. Listen to some of this stuff. This is from redstate.com. It's an opinion piece by a guy named Bonchi, but I just pick a couple of ideas out of here. Number one, he points to a Reuters poll on Americans' attitudes toward the Biden impeachment inquiry. This is Reuters. Support, 41%. Opposed, 35%. Unsure, 24%. And he says, and I think he's right, great number for Republicans. 41% already in support of the inquiry, and there's a lot of room to go because the Republicans have not brought in all the evidence here. He says you aren't going to get a conviction in the Senate, even if there are articles of impeachment are passed. But what you can get is a turning of public opinion completely against Biden by fully and methodically exposing all the evidence that is being brought forward through the drip, drip, drip of the impeachment inquiry. He says, I suggest Republicans lay off McCarthy, let this play out because the process is the point. The more you rush the process, the less effective this gambit will be, speaking to Republicans. Top Democrats' bullishness on Biden 2024 collides with voter worries. This is from Yahoo. As it shifts his reelection campaign into high gear, the strength of his candidacy is being tested by a striking divide between Democrat leaders who are overwhelmingly unified behind his bid and rank-and-file voters in the party who harbor persistent doubts about whether this is the best option. Boy, that's true. From the highest levels of the party on down, Democrat Party officials have long dismissed the idea that Biden should have any credible primary challenger. Yet, despite their efforts and the president's lack of a serious opponent within his party, they've been unable to dispel Democrat concerns about him center largely on his age and his vitality. The discord between the party's elite and its voters leaves Democrats confronting a level of disunity over a president running for re-election not seen in decades. I agree. It seems to me that you've got a real problem there. Only 34%, according to the Washington Examiner, they've got a poll here, 34% of voters believe Biden would make it to the end of a second term. By contrast, a slim majority of voters think former President Donald Trump would make it to the end of his term should he win the 2024 presidential election. 82% of Republicans agreed that Trump would finish that second term. But when you have a situation that only 33% of the voters who participated in the poll believe that Biden has the mental and cognitive health to serve as president, compared to 51% for Trump. Golly, this is a CBS poll. 33% say he doesn't have the cognitive health, and 51% say that Trump does. Biden, who is 3 years older than Trump, would be 82 years old, and as you know, that is he got into office as the oldest president ever, and that just continues to be the case. Let's see what else. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, now this one, U.S. officials. I love this story. It's a government, a military-funded study talking about, and what they're talking about is people within the Pentagon. So, you get into the military or you get into the intelligence world and you learn a lot of things and you are sworn to secrecy. But what if, as you retire, you get dementia or you become cognitively in decline? Are the secrets that you have safe, is the question they're asking. Current and former U.S. officials with dementia, the study shows, may pose a national security threat, according to a Pentagon-funded study that is bringing more scrutiny to aging politicians for recent apparent lapses in cognitive ability. Because people are living and working longer, the workforce might experience a higher prevalence of dementia than in past generations. Taken together, we believe that an increasing number of cleared personnel, that is, personnel who hold or have security clearances, have or will have dementia. Seemed like they knew exactly what was coming down the pike. Question asked by Byron York over at the Washington Examiner: how big can Trump's lead get? If you thought former President Donald Trump's lead over the Republican field could not get any bigger, you thought wrong. And as I told you a moment ago, the three most recent major polls conducted in the last 10 days show Trump with a lead of 47, 48, and 50 points respectively. I'm telling you, unbelievably. So just counting the candidates who register any support ball, it's a 7-field candidate. And for one candidate to hit 60% in a 7-candidate field is remarkable. It's not just done, says Byron York. It's a good illustration of Trump's special status as a former president in a field that's never been president and never will be president. If you say national polls don't show us anything, it's the state polls that matter, and he's right. After all, the Republican contest will play out in one state or another, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. Here's the answer to that. First, 60% support in a national poll is so big that it does indeed show something that is extraordinary level of loyalty to a huge number of Republican voters that they feel toward Trump. If Trump were at 34, 2 or 3 points ahead of his nearest competitors, or even 5, that would not maybe be the case, but 60s, I mean, that's serious. But Trump holds big leads in the early states, according to the Real Clear poll. He will win, it seems, pretty big in Iowa, pretty big in New Hampshire. He's up by 34 points in South Carolina. Those leads are smaller than Trump's national polls, but they are still really big for the early states. Well, anyway, goes on and on and on to talk about how it does seem that Trump is on the path to becoming the nominee. Kevin McCarthy believes that's the case, said so on Sunday in Fox Business News, the Speaker of the House saying that President Trump will likely be the party's choice for 2024. He can read polls like the rest of us. I think he will be the nominee, and the thing is, President Trump is stronger today than he was in 2016 or 2020, and there's the reason why. They saw the policies of what he was able to do with America, putting America first, making our economy stronger. We didn't have inflation. We didn't have these battles around the world. We didn't look weak around the world. And he says, it looks like, indeed, Donald Trump will be the guy, and he's in a strong position to win the 2024 contest. However, I want to raise this, and this is a pretty interesting story in the Washington Examiner, Paul Bedard. Voters continue to express weariness with the likely possibility of a 2024 rerun of the 2020 election. Now, this is not Republican voters. This is a look at all voters. And more than a third would be open to supporting a third-party candidate as a result. The latest Rasmussen Report survey says 38% of all American voters would vote third party, including half of black and half of independent voters. It could turn into a three-way contest. 38 in a three-way race wins, right? 42% of the Democrats say they're open to a third-party candidate. 35% of Republicans say they are open to a third-party candidate. There is no major third-party candidate or ticket yet, but Senator Joe Manchin has openly talked about running, and he has recently been tied to retiring Senator Mitt Romney. I don't understand that connection. The result may be viewed as a blow to Biden or Trump, who remain locked in the Rasmussen poll despite sinking support overall for Biden. But the party faithful appear ready to stick by their man if no third-party candidate emerges. A third-party candidate, an actual viable third-party candidate, would scramble this whole thing, because there are a number of people out there, maybe not you, within the sound of my voice, maybe not the party faithful of the Republican or the Democrat Party, but a great number of people in the middle who are frustrated and want something different. They say a pox on both of your houses and would be open to, and if 38% of the people out there voted for a third-party candidate who was viable and well-funded, that would be a win. You don't need 51%. You need, more than 33% in a three-way race. Ross Perot got 19%. But according to this poll, a viable third-party candidate could get 38%. Something to watch in the days ahead. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Hey, if you have pain in your legs, your arms, your neck, your back, you got a tingling in your extremities, that neuropathy stuff, well, listen, you want to call this number, 615-246-5009. It's the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Dr. Kevin Mitchell, he's my doctor. He can be your doctor as well. But I want to share something that's very important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell, a way to show your patriotism by the flying of our grand old flag. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is putting American flags back into cities and towns with something called the Patriot Way Project, and already the Wellness Institute is responsible for flying 75 brand new flags in cities in our area. You can donate at patriotwayproject.com. That's patriotwayproject.com. Or you might just want to drop by the Space Age High-Tech Spinal Facility in Mount Juliet, and you could do it there as well. You want to know that when you visit their facility for spinal or knee treatments or any kind of other treatments, they will be giving back to our communities and flying Old Glory the way she should be flown. Come see them today. Tell your friends, family, and loved ones about the Patriot Way Project, patriotwayproject.com, at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
A new dress code for senators on Capitol Hill, a memorial put together for the German Shepherd that was shot and killed in a Tennessee park, and today's Money News. Those stories and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, as somebody who covered the institution of the Senate and the House for many, many years, walked those halls, I cannot believe that they're going to let this guy, Fetterman, walk into the floor of the Senate with a hoodie on. I mean, this is such the height of disrespect to the institution of the Senate and you know the serious stuff that goes on there. To just show up in a hoodie and some shorts and some sneaks. I cannot believe this. And to tell nobody who works there can do that. I mean, like the Senate pages, they can't do it. But I mean, what are we coming to? I always wore, every time I entered the Congress or the White House, I always felt like it was a sign of respect to go there in a suit and be well dressed. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like to me that is what you should do. And I really hate that they have now decided that Fetterman gets some kind of special dispensation. Apparently, he doesn't like wearing apparently it triggers him somehow to have to wear a coat and tie. I don't understand. Everybody else does it, but Fetterman is different. Fetterman has, we have to accommodate him. Nuts. I hope that the Republicans take back the Senate. And by the way, in 2024, it looks good because the Democrats are trying to defend a lot more seats than the Republicans are. It's entirely possible that the Republicans will take back over the Senate. I think they probably will. And if they do, the one thing I want them to do is reverse that rule. I mean, come on, please, honestly. If you can't put on a coat and tie to go to the floor of the Senate, then there's something wrong. I wasn't going to get off on that, but it just reminded me. I'm appalled by that story. Iran getting $6 billion, and I love this thing that's going on. And by the way, I thought we had a policy of not negotiating with terrorists in America, but apparently not. They're releasing $6 billion. Well, don't worry. It's all going to be used for humanitarian purposes. Which, you know what? That's the stupidest argument I've ever heard. Okay, so you had money that was set aside for humanitarian services. Now you take the $6 billion and you use the money that you had to set aside for the other things that you want to do. Iran is a terrorist state. And Iran is building nuclear weapons. They would love nothing more than to annihilate the United States. And we're giving them $6 billion to do it. Money is fungible. And I don't care, they may take a very strict accounting of how that $6 billion is spent, but it frees up $6 billion they have elsewhere, right? That's the way that works. And so far, the Islamic Republic of Iran has generated a massive windfall of up to $15.7 billion for illegally seizing American hostages. This is outrageous. White House says, well, the families are home. Okay, I get that. But in the process of bringing up, these families and bring these families back home, these people back home so they can be with their families, they are putting other Americans at risk because now they know you just go out and see some Americans and, the United States will pay up. The Taliban apparently has figured that out by watching. The Taliban has detained an American and 18 others for promoting Christianity. An American has been captured and taken hostage by the Taliban after the group raided the offices of a Swiss nonprofit group based in Afghanistan for allegedly promoting Christianity. So they get a bunch of people and they round them up and they say, well, now we have our hostages. Okay, America, what kind of money are you going to pay us to release them? It never works. It only encourages bad behavior. And, I would rather we do something where we go in there with our Delta forces and just get them. I'd rather take that risk than to give a state sponsor of terrorism $6 billion to do with as they please. 30 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
4:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 77 degrees in Music City. Full weather forecast. Latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer overhauled the Senate's informal dress code to allow senators to wear whatever they want on the floor. Im Nguyen has more from Washington.
As of today, the U.S. Senate will no longer enforce a dress code for members after Majority Leader Chuck Schumer recently sent the directive to the chamber's Sergeant-at-Arms. This means lawmakers will no longer have to poke only their heads and arms into the chamber to vote if they're wearing anything but formal clothes. An obvious beneficiary is the first-term Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, who often sports a trademark hoodie on Capitol Hill. Some congressional Republicans are reportedly criticizing the new standards, saying stop lowering the bar.
And intriguingly enough, there's not actually a written rule or dress code for the Senate. Right now in Tennessee, a memorial's been set up where the German Shepherd was shot and killed last week at Percy Warner Park in Nashville. The shooting happened on Wednesday, and the shooter said that he's scared of dogs and that the German Shepherd approached him aggressively while chasing a squirrel, prompting him to fire his weapon 3 times at the dog. Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now stocks drifted a day ahead of an important Federal Reserve meeting. The Dow closed up 6 points. It had been up over 100. The Nasdaq added 2 for the session, and the S&P rose 3. The Fed's Open Markets Committee will convene on Tuesday. The central bank is expected to hold rates steady, but analysts think they'll raise rates again as soon as November. Clorox is warning of a shortage on its products after a cybersecurity attack caused widespread disruptions to its business. It's still measuring the damage, but says it believes the unauthorized activity has been contained. They're still talking, but there are no signs of a breakthrough yet to end an historic United Auto Workers strike, which is in its 4th day. Kids are more expensive than ever. LendingTree says the average price of raising a child is now more than $237,000 from birth to age 18. That's before you even factor in the cost of college. It's cheapest in South Carolina, most expensive in Hawaii.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
37 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Mac Morey's in the newsroom. Chris Webber's in the control room. I am your friend and radio buddy here for, all the way till 7 o'clock. We push hard every day. We're leaning hard into the harness is what we're doing.
Is that what we're doing?
I don't know what that means, but my grandfather, yeah, we're leaning pretty hard in the harness there, I'll tell you. By the way, today, Matt Murphy slipped into his grandpa voice. It was about the funniest thing I've ever heard. I mean, it was so good, by the way. It was a very good voice. And I almost said, that's so good. You could imagine that voice being used like in a cartoon or something.
Really?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, he could
wow,
actually
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it was good. He went and talked like his grandfather talked, and it was fabulous. I can't even begin to do. Matt Murphy continues to surprise. I mean, everything you think you got Matt Murphy figured out, you don't.
And then he throws another curveball right away. Yep.
I know. Well, anyway, it was hilarious. It was very good. I want to mention that Super Talk 99.7 is supporting the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital as they team up with the Nashville Soccer Club to fight kids' cancer. You can bid on unique experiences like a live broadcast featuring your favorite WTN host from your business. Wouldn't that be something? Plus an incredible experience featuring the Nashville Soccer Club. So many other things. Your bids will support Monroe Carroll Jr.'s Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt, the #1 pediatric hospital in Tennessee and the Southeast. You can text Kick Cancer to 615-488-4401. Or if that's just too much, just go to our 997WTN.com website, and you'll find the link there. I know that, you'll help us support this great institution. Okay. President Trump said on Meet the Press this weekend, he's not afraid to go to prison. I'm going to quote some of this stuff because I have some other stuff that I want you to play from that interview. I guess I'm built a little differently, because I have had people come up to me and say, how do you do it, sir? How do you do it? When you say, do I lose sleep? I sleep. I sleep because I truly feel that in the end we're going to win. Trump also discussed some of the charges he faces, including retaining classified documents in an attempt to overturn the 2020 election, and took responsibility for decisions to reverse his loss to President Joe Biden. In fact, I want to get to some of that right now. Here is Trump talking about January 6th and being queried by the the Meet the Press host.
I wanted to go down peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. Secret Service, who I have great respect for, said, sir, it's better if you don't do that. It could be unsafe. Because they didn't mean because of riots, because, it takes one guy with bad intentions, okay? So I didn't have a dispute with them. You had that one person said, I grabbed the man around the neck. Actually, I wish I was so strong to be able to do that. These are all tough guys, smart guys.
So dispute that account.
Dispute it? Who wouldn't dispute it? She's the craziest account I've ever heard. You mean that I was in the Beast, and she said I was in the Beast, and the Secret Service didn't win. So I took a guy who was like a black belt in karate and grabbed his neck and tried to choke him.
What happened?
How ridiculous. Just so you understand. And I have great respect for Secret Service, by the way. They're fantastic. The Secret Service said, sir, it would be better if you did. And I said, I'd love to do it. They said it would be better until we went back to the White House. Just so you understand, I made a very nice speech.
I want to know who you called
by the way,
on that day.
Nancy Pelosi. Why would I tell you that? Listen, Nancy Pelosi was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th.
Did you call military or law enforcement?
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the Capitol was under attack?
I'm not going to tell you anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't do that, and now
Nancy
I understand.
Pelosi doesn't have the authority
that
you
the police
have as
testified
Commander-in-Chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen. Listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her, Capitol Police, great people. They testified against her, and they burned all the evidence. Okay, they burned all the evidence. They destroyed all the evidence about Nancy Pelosi.
What do you say to people who wonder why you as Commander-in-Chief, you have authorities that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have as Commander-in-Chief?
No, she has authority over the Capitol.
Why didn't you send help in that moment, though?
frankly, just so you understand, I assumed that she took care of it. She turned down.
But when you realized that the National Guard wasn't coming?
Well, you don't realize anything until quite a while. National Guard not coming. I asked it to be there 3 days in advance, and she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just
stop
so
it.
you know.
Let me just tell you.
Let me ask you
The
about
mayor
pardons,
let me
Mr.
tell you.
President.
The mayor of D.C. gave us a letter saying that she turns it down. Okay, we have it. Nancy Pelosi also was asked, and she turned it down. The police commissioner
I'm talking
of
about the
Capitol
day of,
Police,
though.
wait a minute.
Yep.
Capitol Police said that he wanted it, and Nancy Pelosi wouldn't accept it. She's responsible for January 6th.
Mr. President.
Nancy Pelosi's responsible.
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of what the former president is saying there is accurate. I mean, he apparently did suggest, and people in the Trump presidency, the Trump administration did suggest that they send down the troops beforehand because it was evident to a lot of people that there could be some problems on that day. And that they offered to send the military and to set up barricades, and she didn't like the optics of it all. And she gave the orders. You got to understand that on Capitol Hill, the Speaker of the House is in complete control of that whole complex. She is the mayor, if you will, of Capitol Hill. And Capitol Hill is like a small town in many ways. It truly is. It has its own police force. It has its own restaurants. It has its own barbershops. I mean, it's got everything. It's a little city where Congress operates. And by the way, there's a little thing called separation of powers, right? You can make a recommendation, but she's under no obligation to follow it because it's a separate entity in government. She is responsible for that. They gave her the option. Do you want to bring in the troops and secure the Capitol? She said to the chief of police, I don't like the optics of that. And that's why there were no police there. I mean, no military there that day. When things started to go south, it would be up to Nancy Pelosi to call and say, I want the military. It's not up to the president of the United States. He could approve it if asked, but it's up to Nancy Pelosi to say, I need the troops. So, you know, this is nuts. Nancy Pelosi did respond to this on another show.
The former president of the United States, Donald Trump, on Meet the Press, says this, and I'm quoting you directly, him directly. Nancy Pelosi is responsible for January 6th. He is blaming you for the attack on the Capitol that he instigated.
Whoa. Hold it. What in the world are you doing? You call yourself a journalist? Listen to that little editorial thing that he sort of just jammed in there.
For January 6th. He is blaming you for the attack on the Capitol that he instigated. Your response.
Whoa. You talk about bias right there. That tells you, that what you get over at MSNBC.
Well, the former occupant of the White House has always been about projection. He knows he's responsible for that, so he projects it onto others. Shame on him. However, he always projects. Now, he used to say, well, she turned down my troops. No, we begged him. Chuck Schumer and I begged him to send the troops again and again.
And so he says also in that interview, Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers.
Yeah, well, these Trumpites were attacking.
You notice how she didn't answer that question? How she went right past it? She did not confirm that, and she went on to another talking point. That's called a pivot.
Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers.
Yeah, well, these Trumpites were attacking the Capitol, fighting the police, threatening my life and the life of the vice president. We're turning down the troops. I mean, there's a sickness here. There has to be an intervention, and that intervention has to be the election, which we have to win. And that's one of the reasons I'm running again, to fight for our democracy, which is at stake if he's on the ballot.
Well, that's insane. She didn't answer the question about the troops because she knows. And by the way, there is a real question about why the January 6th committee did not talk to the Capitol Police Chief, the person who knows more about everything that happened. Why didn't you do that interview? You know why? Because he's come out later and said, I'm telling you, this was a disaster of epic proportions, and it doesn't comport. Let's put it that way, with the story that Nancy Pelosi and others on the Hill want to tell. So, I don't know about the evidence being destroyed. I haven't heard that, but one thing or the other, I think there is a real question about that January 6th report. It was definitely, as you can imagine, one-sided. Now, look, I sat here when we were getting close. I was on vacation when on the 4th of July. January 1st. Still coming on vacation after Christmas, and I said, you know what? There's something. I was down in Florida, and I said, this thing is heating up, and January 6th is going to be a pretty big day. And I called my bosses here at Cumulus, and I said, look, I'm in Florida, but I want to go because I think, something epic is going to happen on January 6th, and I want to be there. And I was there, and I stood on the street. I never got into the building. I never got into the tear gas because that was not my intention. My intention was to be observer and to learn and to report what I saw. And interestingly enough, I actually, from my vantage point, saw a lot of things that sort of go against the narrative. Like everybody says, well, Trump got them all wound up down there on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, and they just charged down the street and took over the Capitol. That didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. But you can only see what you could see, and it was later when I saw what happened inside the building, which I was not privy to at the time, that I had a bigger understanding of what went on. But the bottom line is, sitting on vacation, on my front porch, reading off my phone, I figured out that there was going to be something big that happened on January 6th, and I knew I needed to be there. How is it that the Capitol Police could not figure this out? How is it that the intelligence services could not figure this out? How is it that the Capitol was left completely open and just sort of ripe for an attack? They had bicycle racks. That was their security. Bicycle racks. What did they think? Everybody's going to pedal up the street and park their bike? I don't know what they were thinking, but that was the extent of their security. I'm telling you, you can hop over a bicycle rack, you can shove them open, and that's it. And that's exactly what they did. People who were bent on getting into the Capitol to send a message that day. So Nancy Pelosi is, I think, completely at fault when people say, when she says, "Oh, I didn't want the Capitol. I didn't want the Capitol surrounded by military office. I didn't think that was a good look. I didn't like the optics of it." I mean, everybody knew what was going to happen that day. Everybody had a good feeling about what was going to happen. A lot of people figured it out in advance. Why couldn't they? 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
A government shutdown just 12 days away. To avoid it, a man and his family get a firework thrown at them. A mother facing DUI charges and a Tennessee elementary school back on their campus. Those stories and more coming up at 5. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Now we're about to wrap up this hour number 2, head into hour number 3. We will talk about what's going on down on the border, and I'm telling you, it's maddening, and it's getting worse, not better. And of course, it's the highlight of our show, really, I think in so many ways. People are clamoring. It's become appointment radio. Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports at 5:25, and that'll be good. We love that. And Mac always has really astute things to say about what's going on. Almost got the score right on the Titans game.
So
close.
Oh,
so close. Yeah, so that's all coming up at 5:25 right here on Super Talk 99.7. You're listening to The Drive. Back after the news.
It's 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 77 degrees and a pretty day in Nashville. Expecting a lot of the same this week. Complete weather forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. With a government shutdown looming just 12 days away, House Republicans are considering a stopgap measure that would keep the government open until October 31st. Im Nguyen has more.
House Republicans are considering a continuing resolution to keep the government funded until the end of October. The measure would include an 8% funding cut to domestic agencies except Veterans Affairs and the Pentagon. It would not include key sticking points such as $24 billion more in aid to Ukraine and $16 billion in supplemental disaster relief, meaning it's likely dead on arrival in the Democrat-controlled Senate. Today, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said he wasn't sure if he had the votes needed to pass the bill. The House will likely vote on this bill later this week.
Right now in Tennessee, a man considering pressing charges after having a firework thrown at him along with his fiancée and his dog. It happened near Autumn Crossing Way and Scarlet Ridge Drive. The man says his hearing's since been affected. He's now wearing a plug in his right ear. Other people have reportedly been hit, and this man says it was some young adults in a loud BMW. And a Tennessee mother facing some serious charges, DUI, child abuse, after crashing a motor cart with 4 children on board on a highway near Chattanooga.
Fox 17 says when police arrived, 33-year-old Michelle Ann Terrell was holding one of the children. Police said they could smell alcohol on Terrell's breath. Police say Terrell admitted to having a couple of, quote, Captains and Cokes with her meal of chicken parmesan and spaghetti about an hour before the wreck. As for crashing the motor cart, Terrell told officers the kids, who are all under the age of 10, wanted her to swerve back and forth. She said she did, but lost control and the cart flipped. Two of the children, one of Terrell's own and another someone else's child, were seriously hurt. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And in the volunteer state, Old Center Elementary School in Nashville ready for students to come back to campus after a natural gas issue last week. Students have been at Goodlettsville Elementary since last Tuesday, and they'll return tomorrow. And a Florida man accused of gunning down his next-door neighbor who was trimming trees over his property line. Dave Packer.
The fatal shooting happened in Dilion Springs. Volusia County Sheriff Michael Chitwood.
Our shooter, who's 78, is inside watching a football game, and his wife says, hey, Brian's on our property cutting branches.
That's when he says Edward Jerzalowski picked up his pistol, headed outside, and shot 42-year-old Brian Ford.
While his 8-year-old son is standing, right next to him.
Chitwood disgusted.
This is just senseless as senseless can be. Somebody's dead over tree branches. Are you kidding me?
Jerzalowski charged with second-degree murder.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. About 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Glad that you're with us here on this Monday. As you drive home, we'll try to get you some information and news you can use. so that you arrive wherever it is you're going this evening as the smartest person in the room. That's right. You'll have inside info and sharp analysis. That's our goal each and every day. Okay, I want to start by talking about the border situation. And before, you roll your eyes and say, "Oh, Wilson, another report about the border." You need to indulge me here. And I understand that, when you have something that goes on and on and on for a long time, people get a sort of a fatigue of hearing about it. But this situation is, really getting bad. You would think that over time, maybe everybody who ever wanted to come would come and it would start to, sort of trail off. But that's not true. I think what's going on is that a lot of people who want to come to America are looking at our political situation and understand that Biden may not win. And probably won't win. And I think they're making the judgment that, well, as soon as if Trump wins, then they're going to close down the border again. And so we better get busy and get across that border before the elections. And I think that's what's driving. And if it's bad now, and that's what's motivating people, get ready, because it's going to get a lot worse. And it's horrible. Now, there's a guy who does a great job of covering this. I like to thank Fox News in advance for this sound. He works for Fox News. He's been at the border for 2.5 years. And he understands the situation down there better than perhaps any other reporter in America. His name is Bill Melugin. And you're going to be angry when you hear him describe the situation on the border and the things that are going to happen over the next few days as a train full of illegal migrants are coming toward America. A train full of them. Several trainfuls of them, maybe. He says it's the worst he's ever seen. And the Border Patrol is near the breaking point.
Early this morning in Eagle Pass, we witnessed one of the largest mass illegal crossings we have ever seen in the last 2.5 years of covering our southern border. Border Patrol sources telling us just after midnight, about 2,500 migrants crossed illegally into Eagle Pass. You can see this lengthy line of them stretching from shore to shore in the river. This video perspective coming from the Mexican side of the river in Piedras Negras. They essentially bum rushed Eagle Pass last night. And this happened right next to the port of entry, where the Biden administration is telling people to cross legally. They don't care. They're crossing illegally because there are little to no fear of consequences. Almost essentially a stampede of people rushing down to the edge of the river just after midnight. You can see some Mexican National Guard soldiers kind of standing around aimlessly, not sure of how to try to stop so many people, but they went rushing into the water and crossed illegally right into Eagle Pass. These migrants continue to have no fear of consequences for crossing the U.S. border illegally. They believe if they step foot on U.S. soil, they will be released into the United States, and they are not listening to Biden administration messaging that the border is closed and that they should not come to the United States. Take a look at this video out of Mexico showing a train full of migrants hooting, hollering, cheering, and waving to the cameras. This is in Zacatecas, Mexico, and that train is heading straight for the U.S.-Mexico border. Patrol sources are telling us more of these trains are heading north as I speak to you right now, and these numbers are expected to get worse. CBP sources telling Fox News that as of this morning, they had over 20,000 migrants in federal custody, and that's even with all these mass street releases they've been doing to try to decompress. We are told they're getting close to a breaking point and that they feel the border has never been worse.
Wow. Wow, wow. And it's been bad. It's been bad, really, 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 really bad, but they say that it's never been worse. And you see, we're not paying attention right now. Melugin is down there. There are a few other people that are down on the border who are reporting this, but it is largely being not reported by other major news organizations in this country. I think this is a disaster of epic proportions. There has never been anything quite like it. The complete disregard for our nation's immigration laws. People do understand. He said, well, people aren't listening to the Biden administration when they say, don't come, the border is closed. You know why they're not listening? Because what they see is people are given a piece of paper and they are allowed in. What are you going to believe? What you hear when the Biden administration says don't come, or looking at television coverage where you see it happening every day? They know if they get here, there's a pretty good chance they're going to get across the border. And those who would be stopped by the Border Patrol are coming in, in other places, and they're having absolutely no contact with law enforcement. 1.7 million known gotaways. I add the word known because we don't know about those that we didn't see. I mean, there is the known knowns and the unknown knowns. I mean, the gotaways, there are a certain number of them we know because we can see them on cameras and we can trace them with the different kind of sensors that we have out in the desert. But there are people who come across that are unknown to us as well. I mean, that 1.7 million people, it's probably much higher than that. It is a disaster. It is a humanitarian crisis. It is a human trafficking crisis. It is a drug crisis. It is a law enforcement problem. Just the other day, where there was a story, and largely not going reported. I will say that, that I think it was the Tennessean that had it, showing based on some work that had been done that Nashville, Tennessee had the second highest drug overdose death rate in the country per capita. Number one. Now, number two. I mean, number one was Baltimore. Number two was Nashville, Tennessee. That's a tragic number. People are dying from the fentanyl that's coming across the border. And Mnuchin says it's the worst he's ever seen, and it's been bad for a long, long time. When is it going to stop? When is the Biden administration going to put their foot down? If ever. I tell you what, I think they're not going to. I think they look the other way, and they make noises like, well, the border is closed. Well, it's not closed. It's evidently not closed. What are you going to believe? What the Biden administration tells you, what you can see with your own eyes. It's not closed. People are ignoring our border laws and just coming right in. Now by the thousands, waves of the thousands coming across. And this train, here we go, this train. A Ferromex train filled with migrants out of Zacatecas heads toward the southern border while the passengers cheered and hung from the sides. It's packed with migrants who could be here cheering. The train was captured on video on Sunday, despite the U.S. sending a stern warning to migrants, do not come. Like that works. Border Patrol along the southern border. Well, you better pay attention to us because we're serious. That border is closed. Not. No, we're serious. The border's closed. Well, it doesn't seem to be closed. Have you looked at the pictures? Arizona, 2,000 illegal crossings a day for several straight days last week, forcing agents to resort to street releases because the shelters are overwhelmed. They just had to, okay, we don't have time to process you. Here, get in the bus. We're going to release you into America. Just dump them on the streets in Arizona. Good luck. There's America. Have your way with it. Some of these people were not from just like South American. Some were from Africa, they said. See, everybody has sort of figured out, I don't have to go through the process. I don't have to, check in with immigration and apply for a visa and come in and begin the process of asking for American citizenship. All I got to do is make my way to the Mexican border and pay a coyote a little money to get me across, and I'm done. I'm in. Because once they get in, I don't care what piece of paper they have in their hand, the vast majority of them vanish. They just evaporate into the fabric of America. Many, they say, were released with future court dates. Oh, well, that's nice. A Biden administration considering forcing migrants to remain in Texas. See, they're irritated because, they believe that the governor of Texas, he's sending people like to places like New York and Chicago and Los Angeles, and they say, well, he's causing a problem up here. We got 110,000 migrants. Here's a little fact check for you. Facts matter. Yes, the governor of Texas has sent some people to New York City on buses. By the way, didn't twist their arms to get it. They just said, hey, if you're going to go to New York, there's a bus going. Would you like to go? And they piled in and went. But There may be 110,000 migrants, but the governor of Texas is responsible for only about 13,000 of them. He made the point, the rest of those folks, nearly 100,000 people, 97,000 people, made their way to New York without the aid of the governor of New York. So stop it. Stop that nonsense. It's not what's happening. And the idea of punishing the state of Texas, which is doing everything it can to support a closed border, they're spending billions and billions of dollars. And to punish the state of Texas, which has already been punished, is laughable. Laughable. Let's see how long that lasts. By the way, you can't make them stay. You know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How are you going to make them stay in Texas if they don't want to be in Texas? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Here's an example of what we are in for. Remember, a lot of these people come and they want to come in contact with law enforcement. They want to get that piece of paper. And a great number of people cross, about 1.7 million that we know of, cross and run from the police because they have things to hide. They're bad people. Illegal alien charged with murder after being released by New York police due to a paperwork error. An illegal alien stands accused of killing a man after being let out of jail due to a paperwork error for previously stabbing someone on a separate occasion. The individual was arrested and arraigned in, I can't say the name, the county in New York for this fatal stabbing of 28-year-old Jario J. Hernandez Sanchez. A Honduran illegal immigrant had been previously apprehended by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol in New York. They discovered an active warrant for his arrest in Laurel, Maryland, related to a non-fatal stabbing, and they asked that he be held by ICE, held until ICE could get there. They released him, and he went out and killed somebody, according to police. We're going to rue the day we allowed this to happen. And just understand that the Biden administration is turning away and not looking at this situation and lying about what's happening on the border simply for crass political reasons. They want to change the voting demographics of America. That's what this is all about. Come on in. The gates are open. Oh, no, they're not. Yeah, they really are, though. Oh, well, no, we said they weren't, but you know what? But they are. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Let me talk about Beacon, how you're faring in this rough and tumble market. The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the plan. Here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are, help you make any mid-course corrections. You may not need much, but what's wrong with having a second set of eyes on this? Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide the reassurance that you need. It starts with a simple phone call. Here's the number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. I mean, you have nothing to lose except perhaps a lot of worry. Get started today by calling that number, 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing that you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, that number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. And you can learn more by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com.
Some breaking news on that F-35 fighter jet. Some evidence in the classified documents case against former President Donald Trump. Plus some crime in Tennessee. That and more 30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 24 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You're listening to The Drive. I'm Brian Wilson. Chris Webber's in the control room. And, of course, it's time now for our fan favorite. I mean, everybody's talking about this new segment that we added, and everybody loves it, what we like to call Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
It's the Wide World of Sports with Mac Maury. Now, here is the host of our program, Mac Maury.
Hey! Happy Monday, everyone.
Happy Monday. Mac, we love this. You have a real passion. I got to turn that down. A real passion for sports. There's no doubt about it, right?
Yep.
And so, though you do a great job giving us the news, we want to make sure that we tap into your vast knowledge of sports from time to time. And so every day at 5:25, it's Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports. Okay, now, on Friday, the Tennessee Titans, we were talking about them and the big game on Sunday. You, I think, pretty much had it, nailed down. You said, number one, the two teams were very similar, very evenly matched, and you almost got the score right.
Oh,
I actually pulled the audio.
Oh, did you?
Let's hear.
Let's
Okay.
do it.
Listen here.
Prediction for the final score.
Ooh, let's go 26-23. Titans get a win.
There it is right there. And the final score was
27-24.
Missed it by that much.
Oh, it was 2 points off, 1 point for each team. But
close.
had the margin of victory right, and I had the correct team winning. So way to go, Titans. Got a win on the board, and not just a win on the board. It was an important one. I mean, they had not won a game since, what was it, last year in November, I think it was, on a Thursday night football game. They had lost 8 straight games to end last season.
Oh,
and then,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then open up with a loss. So this was a big victory Monday for all Titans fans and all Middle Tennessee fans out there. So that was huge for the Two-Tone Blue to get a win. And for Ryan Tannehill, someone that we talked about after the Week 1 loss against the Saints, threw 3 interceptions. Ryan Tannehill, quarterback for the Titans, he looked great. Only 4 incompletions, threw a touchdown pass, very efficient. And it was all because they got back to their basics, which is what we talked about on Friday. They ran the football, and it was good. It was awesome.
Yeah. I thought I watched it. I was tied up in the first half of the game, but I got to see the second half of the game. And, you were right, though, about one thing. These two teams were very evenly matched.
Oh, extremely evenly matched. And also very similar in just some of the things that kind of bring them down, whether it's a miscue or an unclutched play call or something just kind of goes wrong for them a lot of the time in the season. Both the Chargers and Titans are parallel in that way. So when they face each other, we talked about the last 3 times they'd played, the margin of victory, the difference of points scored had just been 1 over those last 3 games.
Wow.
And this kind of fell into that sort of vein and category of game, a 3-point win in overtime. And again, the Titans have a kicker. Nick Folk makes a few big kicks.
I was going to say Nick Folk is really getting it done. I mean, that guy's impressive.
It's awesome, and it's a huge sight for Titans fans who have just gone kicker after kicker. It's been a revolving door.
A carousel, hasn't it?
It really has. So to find a leg and a guy who's a veteran, Nick Folk has been in big situations. He's been in big playoff games. He played in a franchise that's won Super Bowls for the New England Patriots. Nick Folk's been there. He's done that. He's not scared of a regular season game kick for the win against the Chargers, and he was able to do it.
He's really got range.
Yeah, he does. He's extremely consistent within 45 yards, but you can get him like you're talking about, Brian. 55 yards even isn't outside of Nick Folk's range, so that's huge for the Titans. And just something to highlight here, because we're going to be doing this every day, Brian. We're going to be talking a lot about the Titans, and a lot of people already know his name, but Tajay Spears. It's something else the Titans haven't had, a second running back to spell Derrick Henry. Because when Derrick Henry goes out, it's like, okay, they're passing it. Or if they are running it, it's not going very far. That's not the case now. They have this little lightning quick guy to go besides the thunder and the boom that Derrick Henry provides. And I'm really liking what I see out of Tajay Spears.
Good. And so now, looking forward, how does the rest of the schedule look in the next few games?
So if anyone wants to see who the Titans are playing next week, they can tune into Monday Night Football. The Cleveland Browns are going to be facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Titans will travel to Cleveland next week to take on what's a pretty formidable Browns team. They don't really have a glaring weakness. Good in both sides of the trenches on offense and defense. They've got solid wide receivers, good defense. They're very fast. Obviously, a quarterback who's been a topic of discussion over the last few years, and Deshaun Watson, both for reasons on and off the field, but he's been better on the field these last few games. So it's gonna be a tough matchup. And then they play the Bengals, the Colts, the Ravens. So this schedule, like we've talked about, Brian, isn't getting easier in a really tough and competitive AFC. But the Titans showed on Sunday that they can stand up and go through some trials and tribulations and come out on top with a W, a much needed win. There's this kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a curse, but there's a lot of numbers that dictate and that kind of show 0-2 in the NFL is kind of a death sentence if you want to make it to the playoffs. And so that was a big, I don't know. I don't know if I believe all of it, but the numbers show it's kind of a big deal. So to avoid that was huge.
Okay. Well, listen, tomorrow maybe can we talk about primetime?
Ooh, yes, I would love that.
I want to do that. All right. That'll be tomorrow's edition of Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports. Now Mac puts on his news hat. It's 5:30 and time for the news.
It's 5:30. I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 77 degrees in Nashville. Complete weather forecast. Latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Some breaking news. County on News 2 out of South Carolina has now confirmed that the debris from the missing F-35 fighter jet has been found in a field in Williamsburg, South Carolina. The search began Sunday after a pilot was found on South Kenwood Drive in North Charleston after safely ejecting from the plane. And this whole incident has been reported as a, quote, mishap. And some news with former President Donald Trump. Sources say that evidence in the classified documents case against the former president might involve note cards that he converted to to-do lists to give assignments to a staffer. Stephen Portnoy.
Sources tell ABC News Trump aide Molly Michael has given investigators to-do lists written by the former president on the backs of note cards that contained classification markings. Those cards were apparently used to brief Trump ahead of foreign leader calls or to advise him of other matters overseas. Sources say Molly Michael turned the cards over to investigators the day after the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago in August 2022. A spokesperson for the former president insists Trump acted in a proper manner and did nothing wrong.
And a Russian national living in Hong Kong was arrested today and brought to New York to face federal charges of smuggling U.S. electronics for the Russian war machine. Aaron Katursky.
After the Russians invaded Ukraine, they needed more gear. Federal prosecutors here said Maxim Marchenko helped them get it. He's charged with being part of an illicit procurement network that sent made-in-the-USA microelectronics to Russia for use in scopes, night vision goggles, and weapons systems. He operated several shell companies that prosecutors said acquired the items without telling their U.S. distributors they were destined for Russia. Prosecutors said the Russians used people like Marchenko to advance their war machine, and stopping them is a priority.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let me tell you about Grace Point Healthcare. They deliver medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you will know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at just $69 a month, and you get, listen to this, unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they can offer family plans as well. Now, if you were to marry this with a high deductible insurance plan that you may have, you could potentially save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They will see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms, and they treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted as the best primary care provider by Toast to Music City year after year after year. Listen, Grace Point Healthcare, Main Street in Franklin. Call this number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit. All right, it is 37 minutes now, make it 38 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. McMurray, first of all, very interesting report about that missing F-35. They have found the wreckage in a field.
Yes.
How many? Do you have any idea roughly how far it flew on autopilot before it crashed?
We've got, give me one second. This is 2 hours northeast of Joint Base Charleston.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that
2 hours at what speed, though? I mean, you know,
exactly.
Exactly. Flight time, is it 2 hours flight time? Because I mean, honestly, if you don't know the story, a guy is flying his F-35. He's a Marine pilot in a very highly classified $80 million jump jet that is stealth. You can't see it on radar, right? So he's up there flying around. He's in stealth mode, so that means he's not flashing a transponder that they can see. Air traffic controllers don't know where he is. So, you know, he's up there flying in complete stealth mode. Then they say there's a mishap. and they don't say what the mishap is. And he was ejected from the F-35, but it was on autopilot, so it kept flying. And then crashed about 2.5 hours flight time, I guess, north of Joint Base Charleston is what they call it. So, wow, what a deal that is. I mean, so many questions. But, I mean, you know, if you are not squawking, as they say in parlance of pilots, on your transport code, then especially if you're flying a stealth aircraft, they can't track you. They don't have any idea where you are. They have no idea you're even up there. That's the whole purpose of stealth technology.
Seems like there'd still be some way, like for us to track the jet, to know where it is.
If you give us an opportunity and a way to track it, then you give the enemies, they'll figure it out as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they do squawk on when a lot of times when they're in air traffic areas where there are commercial aircraft. But this guy bailed out of the aircraft for unknown reasons after what he called a mishap. But there's no explanation of what the mishap is.
And then it was just on autopilot. I mean, it's a wonder that the thing didn't crash in a populated area. I mean, who knows where it could have gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad deal. Bad deal. Well, anyway.
I mean, I make $135 million mishaps all the time, so.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. I wanted to share this story with you, and because I knew you guys would, my long enduring fear of snakes. A Middle Tennessee couple is rattled after finding a venomous snake inside their infant's wagon. They call it an infant's wagon. I would call it a baby buggy. I don't know what they're talking about. Autumn and Tyler Maidlow live in Greenbrier. They store their baby buggy inside the garage. Now, my husband went out for a walk with our baby in the buggy and left the garage open. I got home with groceries, and he put the wagon in the garage, and we took our baby out. We brought in our groceries and ate dinner, which took about 30 minutes. Once the family finished eating dinner Friday night, Maidlow asked her husband to put something in the car. You ready for this? He walked past the buggy, and when he walked back in, he noticed the snake on the ledge of the buggy. Right when he looked at it, it struck at him, and he jumped back and apparently put a dent in her car. I mean, I would have jumped about 10 feet.
I'd have been on the car.
Yeah. The couple was terrified, but thankful they were able to spot they said it was a copperhead. I don't know. It looks to me like it's got rattles before the next walk with their baby. Tyler was able to safely remove the snake from the buggy. Autumn says her husband later dispatched the snake to snake heaven with a shovel. That's not their wording, that's mine. According to the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, copperheads can measure up to 3 feet in length and have a distinctive dark brown hourglass crossband on the right side. On the bright side, TWR says copperhead venom is not potent, so fatalities are very rare. They generally prefer forested habitats. This doesn't smell right to me.
It's
bless you.
bizarre.
I'm so sorry.
I'm assuming that the garage was left open, or that it came in.
No, it was left open. But I mean, how does it climb into a buggy?
That's very.
I mean,
strange.
you got to climb up the wheels.
Yeah,
and that seems weird. It sounds like somebody put it there, or this is one big giant hoax, one way or the other.
What was it doing? I mean, normally snakes are looking for something. They're not just ambling about willy nilly.
No. Snakes are just being snakes. If you left the garage door open. Maybe somebody came in there and said, I'll play a big prank on them. I'll put this venomous snake in their baby buggy. I don't know. It seems
a hell
pretty
of a prank if
sick.
that was what.
Yeah, that's an ugly prank. Because, I mean, you could have easily just thrown the kid in there and taken off.
Yeah, that would have been terrible.
That would have been horrible.
Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know what this is about, but
Very
I got to tell you, there's something about this story that doesn't quite add up to me. So, there's two stories here. A missing F-35. That doesn't add up. What is the mishap? And now, not the same level of story for sure, but this Tennessee couple allegedly finding a copperhead. I mean, I don't know. The picture that they show, well, they may have just used a file photo talking about venomous snakes. I'm terrified of snakes. And not crazy about spiders. But I mean, I remember one time I opened up one of those water things in the front yard where you need to turn on or off the water. I had to turn off the water in my house, and I opened up the little metal thing, and a big old black snake jumped out of there. I about screamed. I screamed like a girl is what I did.
I would have too.
And I mean, I was about a half a block away before I caught my breath. I mean, I just am terrified of snakes. It was a harmless snake. The other day, coming around from Grogu's garden, there was a snake that was sitting. It had weaved its way through the metal gate that I have. This, and it was a harmless snake. But again, I'm frightened. I just frightened to death of them. So.
Yeah. Not so harmless if you hurt yourself trying to get away from the snake.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's a horrible thing. I don't know what to think about that. Other news from Tennessee. Let me see if I can find both of these stories. Yeah, here we go. A sad note. Marty Stewart, I'm a big fan of Party Marty, and he apparently is a sad thing in his life. His sister has died. Country singer-songwriter Marty Stewart mourning the death of his beloved sister Jennifer Stewart. Announced on social media Sunday. He shared a small tribute on X and encouraged people to honor Jennifer by doing something nice for someone else. Passed away this morning. She had so many friends who loved her from all over the country. She never met a stranger. So our condolences to Marty Stewart and his family on the passing of Marty's sister. Then we get this. I don't know what to think about this. Singer Maren Morris announced she's leaving country music. And the reason? Well, apparently it had something to do with the fact that at one point Donald Trump was our president. I mean, I'm not making this up. It was the effects of the Trump years have had on the music genre. What? I mean, honestly, you poor little snowflake. Triggered by this guy who's no longer president. After the Trump years, people's biases were on full display, she said in an interview with the Los Angeles Times published Friday. It just revealed who people really were and that they were proud to be misogynistic and racist and homophobic and transphobic. The Grammy-winning singer-songwriter added that she resents music being used as a toxic weapon in culture wars. She's referring to Jason Aldean's hit song, Try That in a Small Town, which made waves with conservatives. And I guess maybe she's even talking about that Oliver guy and his song, Richmond, North of Richmond. I don't know. It's not out of true joy or love of the music. It's to own the libs. That's what she says. That's what country music has become. I don't know. I don't get that. I mean, sure, there's going to be music is a reflection, it seems to me, of where we are in America. And so, yeah, there are going to be people who write songs that might resonate with the left, and then they'll write songs that might resonate with the right. I don't know. But she's leaving country music.
I think to that, country music would say, bye.
Bye-bye. That's right. Don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out. Morris poked fun at the situation. I'm sorry, no, she's talking about... She made headlines last year when she criticized comments made by Aldean's wife, Brittany Aldean. I guess this really has to do with the Maren Morris, Jason Aldean, Brittany Aldean feud of some kind. I don't know. They apparently dislike each other a great deal. But, I mean, come on. Really, honestly, you're so triggered by somebody's effort that you're going to leave country music. Where are you going to go? What kind of music you going to do? You're just going to check out? I don't have much patience for these precious little snowflakes. Well, that guy wrote a song that hurt my feelings or that I disagree with. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give up my multi-million-dollar career and I'm going to leave country music. I mean, come on, you overprivileged little self-centered snowflake. Get over yourself. Get over yourself. It's just a song. If you really want to go out there and write a song to answer. Mm-hmm. Now do what Lennon and McCarthy used to do. Insult each other with songs that you write. That's the good musical tradition we all know. Mm-hmm. No, I think it's insane. And I don't know what's going on here, but I mean, to say that you're triggered because somebody wrote a song and that you have to give up a career that, by the way, you've done very well in, and you've made a lot of money and have a lot of followers, and you're going to give it all up simply because he wrote a song that I just feel like it just hurt my feelings. Enough. I think we'd be better off without that kind of stuff. And on that point, it's now 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future, or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Some news on that F-35 fighter jet, a missing pregnant woman in Tennessee. Some news concerning an Iranian deal and made with the United States, plus part of Disney World shut down today. We'll tell you why. 6 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you, Mac Maury. Here at Super Talk 99.7, we're supporting the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital as they team up with the Nashville Soccer Club to fight kids' cancer. You can bid on unique experiences like a live broadcast featuring your favorite WTN host for right from your business. Wouldn't that be something? Plus, an incredible experience featuring the Nashville Soccer Club and so much more. Your bids will support Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt, the #1 pediatric hospital in Tennessee and in the Southeast. You can text Kick Cancer to 615-488-4401 or find the link, probably the easier way, just go to our 997WTN.com website and you'll find a link that will take you there. It is now 57 minutes past the hour. Coming up in the next hour, a 2024 update, and we'll talk about that situation with Iran. It is, as I said, 57 minutes now past the hour. Let me tell you about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. I've talked about it a lot. If you have pain in your arms, your legs, your neck, your back, if you have neuropathy or, that tingling in your arms or legs, there's a lot of things that can be done to make you feel better. And the way you do this is you just start with a phone call to the Wellness Institute of Nashville, 615-246-5009. But allow me to share something that's very important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell. It's a way to show your patriotism through flying of our grand old flag. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is putting American flags back into our cities and towns with something called the Patriot Way Project. And already the Wellness Institute is responsible for having flown over 75 brand new flags. Now you can donate at patriotwayproject.com. That's patriotwayproject.com. They want you to know that when you visit their facility for spinal or knee treatment, they are also giving back to the community. So if you have problems, there's just one place you ought to go. 615-246-5009. Come and see them today and tell your friends and family and loved ones about the Patriot Way Project and the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Learn more at painisbad.com.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 75 degrees right now on Music Row. We got a weather forecast, the latest traffic report, headed your way in 5 minutes. Count on News 2 out of South Carolina has now confirmed that the debris from the missing F-35 fighter jet has been found in a field in Williamsburg, South Carolina. The search began yesterday after a pilot was found on South Kenwood Drive in North Charleston after ejecting safely from this plane. Earlier today, the Marine Corps Acting Commandant Eric Smith issued a 2-day stand down, which is focused on safety and procedures to take place at some point this week for all aviation units, both inside and outside of the United States. And this whole incident has been consistently reported as a, quote, mishap. A missing pregnant woman in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that 22-year-old Alyssa Bowden of Madison was last seen on August 14th at her boyfriend's mom's house in Goodlettsville. Bowden is 9 months pregnant. Her mother, Samantha Fenderson, claims that the last person to see her said that she was, quote, blue and bruised. Her boyfriend is also considered a missing person. Fenderson is offering a $2,000 reward for anyone who can help find Bowden, who also has a 5-year-old son. 5 Americans have been freed from Iranian custody today in a deal that has sparked criticism. The detained U.S. citizens include an oil executive, a businessman, and a conservationist. Karen Travers has the latest from President Biden.
President Biden on Monday morning held what the White House called an emotional phone call with the families of the American citizens returning home from Iran. The White House says the plane carrying the Americans has left Doha, Qatar. They're now traveling en route to the Washington, D.C. area to be reunited with their families. In a statement Monday, the president celebrated their release, saying they had endured years of, quote, agony, uncertainty, and suffering, but are now finally coming home.
Right now in Tennessee, a man considering pressing charges after having a firework thrown at him along with his fiancée and his dog. It happened near Autumn Crossing Way and Scarlet Ridge Drive. The man says his hearing's since been affected. He's wearing a plug in his right ear, and other people have reportedly been hit. The man says it was some young adults in a loud BMW. And parts of Walt Disney World shut down for a time after the spotting of a black bear that was not supposed to be there. Dave Packer.
This black bear wasn't on the safari in Animal Kingdom or in the Bear Country Jamboree show. It was spotted in a tree at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. That from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, which was called in to help capture the animal. Parts of Frontierland, Liberty Square, and Adventureland were closed for a time while the bear was removed. Fish and Wildlife saying both Florida's bear and human population are growing, meaning more human-bear encounters than in the past.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It is 6:07 on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and this is The Drive. We're so glad that you're with us. If you're headed home, let's drive safely. It will try to get you there, having given you some news and information that you can use. Before I go any further, I just want to take a moment and say thank you very much to everybody that I ran into out at the fish fry for Congressman John Rose up in South Carthage. It was a great event on Saturday. I couldn't believe all the people that were there. I mean, there were elected officials from all over the state of Tennessee there. The Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, was there. Congressman Mark Green dropped by for a few moments, and it was good to see him. But Congressman Rose had a very nice event. But I really enjoyed getting to talk to the people who I know listen to this radio program. And it was great to hang out with good patriots from Middle Tennessee. And I want you to know, when you say things to me like, I listen to your show every day, we really appreciate that. I mean, it means a lot to us, and we never want you to think that we take our listeners for granted. We have a very special relationship with our listeners. You're very faithful and very loyal. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that I feel immensely blessed when I am among people who say that they listen to our show and they like what we're doing. It means the world to me, and I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate it. Excuse me. I got all choked up there. Now I got a little emotional. Let me just turn, if I could, to our 2024 update. Oh, I got it. There we go. Music. I think the music started a little low, but here we go. We'll try to make the best of it. This is where we look at where things are, and every day there's some interesting story that I think we need to bring to you. So this is going to be a recurring feature on our program, and we'd love to have you check in on it each day. If you care about the coming election, then you don't want to miss our election updates each day. Okay. This one is, pretty interesting. This is an editorial piece that I found in redstate.com, written by a guy named Bonchi. But I think he's got something going on here, and he's right on this. The latest polling on Biden's impeachment is awful news for the president. We have now started an impeachment inquiry. It's not the same as beginning the impeachment process. It simply is a designation that allows the committee's additional powers to subpoena and investigate. It amps up the investigatory abilities of the House of Representatives in a way where they can have more power and access and to get the documents and the compel people to testify than they had before. And he says that the Republican-led inquiry into President Joe Biden is now officially underway. And the inquiry is looking into whether, Joe Biden did this for that, did a quid pro quo. And I want to get deeper into the story because I thought some interesting things. He looks at a new poll. A new poll from Reuters is bolstering the idea that this is really bad news for Joe Biden. According to the results, a plurality support the impeachment inquiry at 41%. 41% of Americans, according to Reuters, believe that it's a good thing. They support the beginning of the impeachment inquiry, and only 35% are opposed. 24%, as you might imagine, don't have any idea what the hell you're talking about. Those are good numbers for Republicans and somewhat unexpected. Now, the last thing this guy says that the GOP needs to do is to start the process in the hole. There are always fears that impeachment will raise a president's approval rating, which happened with Bill Clinton, though it should be noted that Democrats went on to lose the next national election. With 41% already in support of the inquiry, there is a lot of ground to be won with the 24% who say they are unsure. And it seems perfectly possible to garner majority support, 41 to 50? That wouldn't be a heavy lift. If you get half of the 24% who are unsure, you're there. As for Biden, it shows that his stubbornly low approval ratings are actually taking a toll. If there was any way, if it was going to be any way to rally around the moment for the president, you would think this is in it, but they're not. I mean, I think that's the thing you need to remember. is that Republicans. Well, I mean, I'll pull it up real quick. Just takes a moment, and I'll tell you, you're going to be shocked, stunned, and amazed at these numbers because they really are something. Going to realpolitics.com. Boom, boom, boom. Give me half a second. Here we go. The national numbers of the last, 4 or 5 polls that have been taken. Trump leads DeSantis by anywhere between 47 and 50 points. 47, here they are. Plus 48 from the Harris poll, the Q poll plus 50, the Harvard-Harris poll plus 47. Fox News has Trump leading DeSantis by 47 points. If you take all of the last 10 polls show Trump leading the rest of the pack by 43.9, let's call it 44 points. That's pretty unheard of to have that much support. So what that tells me is that Republicans have probably made their decision about, unless something happens that we don't foresee, that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. And when you see these numbers, what that speaks to a bit of passion and excitement about supporting Trump again. In other words, they're excited to vote for Donald Trump in big numbers, and they are engaged. Compare and contrast that with what the Democrats have right now, and everywhere you look are these polls that say Democrats are worried, Democrats are fearful that he's too old, that he's cognitively in decline, that he's not going to be able to make it, and he's not going to win. In fact, the polls suggest, if you look at the battleground state polls, the polls suggest that if the election were held today, that Trump would indeed win. Here's a story from, I don't know who it's from, AP. It's as shifts in re-election campaign into higher gear, the strength of the candidacy of the Democrat being tested by a shrinking divide between Democrat leaders who are overwhelmingly unified behind Biden's bid, and rank-and-file voters in the party who harbor persistent doubts about whether or not this is the best option. Party officials have long dismissed the idea that Biden should have any credible primary challenger, but despite their efforts and the president's lack of a serious opponent within his party, they have been unable to dispel Democrat concerns that the center largely on his age and his vitality. There is a discord between the party's elite and the voters that leaves Democrats confronting a level of disunity over the president running for re-election. This has not been seen in decades. That's right. I mean, the party elite are all aligning, at least officially, although I think they would love to have another option. They're being loyal and they're standing behind Biden. They're saying Biden's the guy. He'd run for re-election, and that's it. But the members of the party, the rank and file members of the party, realize this guy is weak. This guy probably won't make it through a second term. I don't mean to be rude, but let's just be honest about it. The actuarial tables are not in his favor. And so, they understand, that this is not a guy who can lead the Democrats powerfully in a second term. And they don't like, quite frankly, the person who would slide into his chair should something untoward happen, God forbid. It would be Kamala Harris, and they don't have any faith in her. Her numbers are worse than Trump's and than Biden's. I'm sorry. Their assurances have not tamped down worries about Biden from some top Democrat strategists and many of the party's voters who approve of his performance but worry that Biden, who will be 82 on Inauguration Day, simply may not be up for another 4 years or even the exhausting slog of another election. The voters don't want this, and that's in poll after poll after poll, said James Carville, a longtime party strategist who worries about that a lack of enthusiasm for Biden could lead to lower Democrat turnout in 2024. Well, of course, Carville is correct. He's the one guy who will say what everybody else is thinking. A CNN poll released this month found that 67% of Democrats would prefer that Biden not be nominated. A higher percentage than in polling conducted by the New York Times and Siena College over the summer. Back then, it was about half. I mean, every day that Biden steps onto the world stage like he did in Hanoi in that disastrous press conference, wow, was that something? I mean, it was just mistake after mistake after mistake, and he ended it by saying, I think I want to go to bed. You know, he couldn't put together 5 words. And so it gets worse and worse. It's not going to get better. Democrats are in panic, and as it stands right now, I don't think they feel like this guy can get it across the goal line, which is why I've always said, and I'll make the prediction again, that it seems to me that the Democrats are going to find another option. The power brokers and the rank and file are desperate for somebody other than Biden, and it seems to me that they will not nominate Joe Biden, but I can't tell you exactly how it's going to unfold. I only know that if you look at these numbers, like, you know, they can read the polls. They know what's going on. They know how Americans feel. They've got a good finger on the pulse, and they understand that Biden, if he comes up in a face-to-face race against Trump, will not win. And every day that he's there and making goofy statements and getting lost as he goes to and from the podium, it's just not good for their side. So our guys, enthusiastic. They think that Trump has a lot of vitality. They're excited. The other side, they do not want to support this candidacy. I want to get to this story if I can. Let's see. Yes, here it is. I want to just put this out here because we're talking right now in most cases about Republican versus Democrat. And I have good, strong feelings that Republicans will do well in this environment and Democrats will not. However, that is from the standpoint of looking at it if there are only 2 real candidates running. What if there were a viable third party? Here we go. From the Washington Examiner, Paul Bedard. Voters continue to express weariness with the likely possibility of a 2024 rerun of the 2020 election. And more than a third of all voters would be open to supporting a third-party candidate as a result. Now, I mean, look, this is not you, but there are people out there who are just frustrated with politics in general. 42% of Democrats, 35% of Republicans, and a lot of independents say that they would vote for a third party. Here is what, when you do all the math and you add it all up, the latest Rasmussen report survey says 38% would vote third party, including half of black and half of independent voters, if it turned into a 3-way contest. Now, we don't have a viable third party candidate yet, but Joe Manchin is thinking about it and would have probably the support of the No Labels program, their whole effort. And so if you got 38% of the vote in a 3-way race, you win. Just saying. We need to revisit this and also look at the election, not just as a Republican versus Democrat thing, but what if there is really a viable candidate? When Ross Perot ran as the third-party candidate, he got 19%. But according to the Rasmussen report, a third-party candidate, a viable and well-funded third-party candidate, could get 38%. It would be very interesting, and we'd have to rejigger the numbers. 21 past the hour now. Let me tell you about United Structural Systems. If you've had waterproofing problems or structural foundation issues or concrete that sinks or slopes or bricks that are cracking, that's a sign that you really need to call the folks at USS. And here's the number, 615-488-7855. How will it work? Well, they'll come out and they're not going to try to sell you something you don't need. They want to come out and solve your problem. Just, fix it. And then they'll give you their best advice. And if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. That's right. That's the way they work. Don't take my word for it. They really have a very great reputation. 25,000. I said 25,000 satisfied residential customers. But listen to Chris. The work that where the crew that worked on our house has been top notch. I appreciate the integrity, the speed of feedback, the quality of work provided by all of those who have worked for us. Jerry in Hermitage, this is the best crew we ever had do work on our house. Constance, excellent experience. The entire crew was professional and knowledgeable about their service and put me at ease with the whole process. Sound like something that you would want to do business with? Give them a call, 615-488-7855. USS, they guarantee their best, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and Northern Alabama. Online at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. It is 6:26 now on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive on this September 18th. Good evening to you. Let's get home safely, everybody. I'm pulling up some numbers here that I want to share with you because the market was very interesting today. But, I mean, the thing I always look at right now is the high price of oil. And when you start to see oil, a barrel of oil rise up to around $90 a barrel, then you're in for some really high gasoline and diesel prices not too far down the line. Let me just West Texas Intermediate crude ended the day at $92 a barrel. $92 a barrel. Brent crude is right now at $94 a barrel. So, we're well into the $90 a barrel territory, and it's going to continue to go up because, as the story goes, the supplies are tight. When there is not much of something and there's great demand, what happens? Well, the immutable laws of supply and demand tell you that the price of oil will go up. And when the price of oil goes up, it's not long before the price of gasoline goes up. It's not it's not very long before the price of diesel fuel goes up. And so that all is beginning to happen now. And why is this a problem? Well, there's nothing that ripples through an economy faster, causing inflation, than high energy prices. Why? I mean, I've told you this 1,000 times. You know it. I'm repeating things you probably know. But it takes a lot of fuel to get stuff to market. The food that you get in the grocery store, it all came on a truck, or a train or something. It came, something that uses energy. And so if you are paying more for energy to deliver it to market, well, as much as these grocery stores, they're nice and friendly, but they do not absorb that cost. If it costs them more, they're going to pass that on to you. And you know what that is? That's called inflation, ladies and gentlemen. And why is inflation of concern? Well, the Biden administration has been raising interest rates, trying to make sure that they can drive down inflation, which at one point was at 9.1%. It's now down around 3.7, I think 3.7 the last reading. But they used the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to drive down artificially the cost of gasoline, and that's part of the reason why inflation has come down. They don't really have that option anymore. They've taken about as much as they can without seriously putting the government and our national security at risk. So they don't have many other choices. They can't go back to that well again. And we are going to face a round of inflation that's being driven by high oil prices and high energy prices as we go forward. And that means to me, we're not done. I don't care what the Fed does this week. We're not done with interest rates hikes. They're going to keep going up, and inflation is going to be a problem going forward. Anybody who understands the very basic elements of the economy can see that. So get ready. And to that end, let me add this. Southern California drivers are feeling the squeeze of high gas prices yet again. On Monday morning, the price of a regular gallon of gas averaged about $5.92 a gallon, according to AAA. That's up 5-cent increase from the day before and 40 cents above what it was last week. The national average, $3.88. And the national average is we're getting close to $4 a gallon for gas nationwide. So we'll see what happens. Supplies are tight, and the Saudis and the Russians have decided they're going to pull back on how much oil they're putting in because they want to punish us. So I don't think we're over yet, and I think we may be in for some very rough times ahead when it comes to high energy prices. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock. Let me tell you about the folks over at Everseal, and I'll start by sort of describing what it is that Everseal is. It's a sealant for your exterior wood and concrete. Now, listen, it used to be used in industrial applications, but they found a way to provide a permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price that home and, well, business owners can actually afford. Their process starts by a deep cleaning. They go all the way down to make sure that it looks as new and as good as it possibly can look. And then they add their patented sealant, which absorbs all the way through, not just sort of a coating. It actually becomes a part of the wood, a part of the concrete, and will prevent further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. Think about that. I mean, just think about your deck. I mean, most people seal their deck once a year, once every other year. If you didn't have to do it for 30 to 50 years, think about all the money that you would save. And think about, the work you wouldn't have to do. And think about how nice it would be to actually enjoy, your deck instead of having to worry about making sure that everything gets removed and the sealant is at. I mean, it's just a hassle, right? If this sounds like a good idea to you, why don't you reach out to Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal? Here's the number, 1-844-EVER-USA. That's 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to the last few minutes of the drive for this Monday before we hand it over to the great one, Mark Levin. Always, it's always great to listen to Mark Levin. I mean, he's always got a nice take on things. I mean, you talk about a place where you learn stuff. You need to bring your spiral notebook when you listen to Mark Levin so you can take notes. It's like a master's class. All right, here we go. Some late breaking news. Debris reportedly found in South Carolina after that missing F-35, went awry. We don't know what quite happened here. It was called a mishap. The pilot, apparently, there was some mishap, and he ejected from the cockpit, and he's fine. He's good. It's okay. but they didn't describe what the mishap was. And from what I understand, we heard somebody who knew a little about this who called in, said, you have to reach down between your legs and pull a T-handle and then pull it out, and that's what fires, and it blows the canopy and fires you in rapid sequence. And that's how you do that. So, I mean, it's not an easy it's not like you bump a button. I mean, when I flew in an F-16, I was in the back seat of this two-seater, and the pilot said, all right, now over there, you're going to see a little, red thing. Don't touch that. I said, why? And he said, that's the eject button, and you do not want to touch that no matter what. I said, okay, I won't touch it, because I didn't want to get ejected over the lovely green hills of Maryland. Just, yeah, that would be bad. Yeah, I would never live that one down. But anyway, I did. It's not an easy thing to do, and nobody knows why he pulled the T-handle and ejected. And so, the thing you need to know is the thing was on autopilot. In other words, it just continued on until it ran out of fuel. So they have found a debris field now, and they think that this is the remnants of that F-35 in a field. They thought perhaps at one time that it went into a lake, but now they think that the debris field they have found are the remnants of that F-35. After announcing the discovery of the debris field on Monday evening, a Joint Base Charleston spokesperson announced they are transferring command of the incident to the United States Marine Corps. It was a Marine pilot and a Marine aircraft. Members of the community should avoid the area as recovery teams secure the debris field. Earlier on Monday, there would be a 2-day pause to discuss aviation safety matters. I don't know, Chris, I think you might have it right. I think he dropped his cell phone.
That's kind of what it seems like. Like he was fumbling around.
And he reached down there to grab it, and he grabbed the wrong thing.
Yeah, very strange. Also saw something where someone had said at one point that the pilot, I don't know if the pilot said it or if it was just a conjecture, but that the plane was in like a zombie state. I don't know what that means, but like it was not responding to any commands, possibly. It was in autopilot mode and he couldn't get it out of autopilot, maybe. I don't know. It's very strange.
Okay, but if you're flying straight and level and you're on autopilot, wouldn't you hang in there working on for a couple of hours to see if you could get it?
So.
I mean, why would you immediately eject? Why would that be your first instinct?
Yeah. Very strange. Surely when they do recover it, I'm assuming these jets have black boxes like all airplanes do, right?
Yes,
so hopefully they'll be able to see what the last things that happened were before he, pulled the lever.
Oh, yes. They'll be able to look at it. And don't call me Shirley.
Sorry.
No, sorry. I never came past that one up. Yeah. And here's late breaking news also. The Biden administration has unleashed a 50-year mining oil drilling ban, a time when we need all the oil we can get. They're banning, they banned a bunch of stuff up in Alaska, and now it's New Mexico. The Biden administration proposed to block thousands of acres from future oil drilling or mining in northern Mexico, they say in an effort to protect Native American lands. I think I read this before, that the Native Americans, they want them to come and drill for oil on their land. They definitely would love for that to happen because they would make loads and loads and loads of money. I don't know. They say they're responding from calls from tribes, elected leaders, and community members who want to see the public lands protected. I'm telling you, though, when gas is at $6 a gallon in L.A., and $4 a gallon for us, almost $4 a gallon for us here in Middle Tennessee, maybe not the best thing to do. Maybe not the best thing to do is to, announce that you're not going to allow drilling. That oil is years from getting to the market, but it's just sort of the principle of the thing, isn't it? Hunter Biden doesn't want to show up in person for his felony gun arraignment. Too bad, I would say. President Joe Biden's son Hunter does not want to head back home to Delaware for a hearing over his felony gun charge, according to a judge slated to preside over the arraignment. Defendant seeks to have the initial appearance on the indictment in this matter held via video conference. They don't want to give him the picture of Hunter going, there and marching into the courthouse. And I don't know. U.S. District Judge Christopher Burke wrote in a docket entry Monday, noting that the government opposes that request. As a result of the disagreement, Burke issued an oral order Monday directing the younger Biden attorneys to deliver a response by Tuesday as to why he should be allowed to appear virtually for his arraignment for 3 felony gun charges. If they do this, it's, you know what this says to me? It's special. It's treating somebody in a special way that average person would not be allowed to get away with this. Again, isn't that sort of the whole point of this thing? That if your last name is Biden, then there's a whole set of rules for you, but for the rest of us, we all have to obey, and we have different set of rules. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Although Burke is presiding over the arraignment, the case is being handled by U.S. District Judge Mary Ellen Noriega, the same judge who blew up the proposed plea agreement between the first son and U.S. Attorney David Weiss in late July. All right, let's move on. Former President Trump was on Meet the Press this weekend, said he's not afraid to go to prison if that happens. I'm built a little differently because I've had people come up to me and say, how do you do it? How do you do it? He said, when you say, do I lose sleep? I sleep. I sleep because I truly feel that in the end, we're going to win. We're going to win. He talked about other stuff as well. The host of Meet the Press tried to pin him down on the activities of January 6th, and he was having none of it.
I wanted to go down peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. Secret Service, who I have great respect for, said, sir, it's better if you don't do that. It could be unsafe, because they didn't because of riots, because, it takes one guy with bad intentions, okay? So I didn't have a dispute with them. You had that one person said, I grabbed the man around the neck. Actually, I wish I was so strong to be able to do that. These are all tough guys, smart guys.
So dispute that account.
Dispute it? Who wouldn't dispute it? She's the craziest account I've ever heard. You mean that I was in The Beast, and she said I was in The Beast, and the Secret Service didn't win. So I took a guy who was like a black belt in karate and grabbed his neck and tried to choke him.
What happened?
How ridiculous. Just so you understand. And I have great respect for Secret Service, by the way. They're fantastic. The Secret Service said, sir, it would be better if you did. And I said, I'd love to do it. They said it would be better until we went back to the White House. Just so you understand, I spoke. I made a very nice speech.
I want to know who you called
by the way,
on that day.
Nancy Pelosi. I don't have. Why would I tell you that? Listen, Nancy Pelosi was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th.
Did you call military or law enforcement?
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the Capitol was under attack?
I'm not going to tell you anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't do that,
but
and now
Nancy
I understand.
Pelosi doesn't have the authority that
the
you
police
have as
testified
Commander-in-Chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen. Listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her, Capitol Police, great people. They testified against her, and they burned all the evidence. Okay, they burned all the evidence. They destroyed all the evidence about Nancy Pelosi.
What do you say to people who wonder why you as Commander-in-Chief, you have authorities that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have as Commander-in-Chief?
No, she has authority over the
Why didn't
Capitol.
you send help in that moment, though?
Frankly, just so you understand, I assumed that she took care of it. She turned down.
So when you realized that the National Guard wasn't coming?
Well, you don't realize anything until quite a while. National Guard not coming. I asked it to be there 3 days in advance, and she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just
stop
so
it.
you know.
Let me just tell you.
Let me ask you about pardons,
let me
Mr.
tell
President.
you. The mayor of D.C. gave us a letter saying that she turns it down. Okay, we have it. Nancy Pelosi also was asked, and she turned it down. The police commissioner
I'm talking about
Capitol
the day
Police,
of, though.
wait a minute.
Yep.
Capitol Police said that he wanted it, and Nancy Pelosi wouldn't accept it. She's responsible for January 6th.
Mr. President.
Nancy Pelosi's responsible.
Well, I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that indeed the Nancy Pelosi and the folks at Capitol Hill were given the option of bringing in a bunch of National Guard troops. And Nancy Pelosi and apparently Chuck Schumer said, you know, I don't like the optics of that. I don't like the way that would look. I mean, and all the surrounding the Capitol with the military, no. And so in their infinite wisdom, they put up, this was the amount of security I saw that day when I was standing on the lawn. A bunch of bicycle racks. They put a bunch of, these metal bicycle racks is what they really are. They use them for barricades in Washington, D.C., and you can jump over this in a heartbeat. It wouldn't slow anybody down. And so if that was their idea of security, it was woefully lacking. And, a lot of people say, well, they didn't know what was going to happen. I disagree with that, because I was sitting on my porch at my home in Florida, and I looked at and read stuff, and I said, you know what, there's going to be some trouble there. I think I want to be there. And I made the calls to go and went. And I can tell you, if I can see it from my porch in Florida when I was on vacation, I think they can figure it out. I think they should have been able to figure it out. 50 minutes now past the hour. Hey, have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you a thing will be ready at 4 o'clock and you go there and it's not ready. People are really tired of that kind of stuff. Hey, it's your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson. If you had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come to Eurofix. Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable, and Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really supposed to be ready, so you're not standing around and waiting. Eurofix repairs all European cars with a quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing, and that's because the dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of a dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. Why would you want to pay for that? At Eurofix, reliable means a 3-year nationwide warranty, plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Make sure you call ahead, as loaner cars are very popular. So if you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it is reliable. Eurofix, family-owned for 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future, or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.